The silence of the counting house is a living thing, a heavy velvet curtain that muffles the rest of existence. You can hear the slow, rhythmic cadence of your own breathing, matching the steady pace of your hands. The lamplight catches the edge of a coin, creating a tiny, brilliant spark that dances in your eyes. You pick up a handful of silver, the coins slipping through your fingers like metallic water, creating a soft, cascading shiver of sound, a metallic shush that mimics the distant Adriatic tide. There is a profound satisfaction in the tactile nature of the work. The coins are cold, but they warm slightly as they pass through your hands, absorbing the heat of your life. You begin to organize them by their minting year, noticing the subtle differences in the die strikes, the way the silver has worn down on some, the sharp, crisp edges of the newly minted ones. Each coin is a fragment of history. This one might have paid a sailor's wages on a galley bound for England. That one might have been part of a dowry for a noblewoman's wedding. But here they are all equalized, brought back to their elemental value. You feel a sense of immense responsibility, yet it is not a burden, it is a ritual. The oak table acts as your altar, and the counting is your prayer. Your movements become fluid, almost subconscious. Reach, grasp, slide, stack, clink. Reach, grasp, slide, stack, clink. The stacks begin to grow, rising like silver towers from the dark wood. They are perfectly aligned, their edges creating a serrated pattern that catches the light. You find yourself focusing on the sound. The purity of the silver's ring tells you its quality. A dull thud would mean a counterfeit, a base metal hiding under a silver wash. But tonight, every coin sings with a clear, high tenor. They are honest coins, the backbone of a republic that prides itself on its integrity. The shadows on the wall mimic your movements, a giant, ghostly clerk working in tandem with you. The cool air of the vault smells of damp earth and old metal, a scent that speaks of permanence and safety. Above you, the citizens of Ragusa dream of their voyages and their families, protected by the very silver you are now organizing. You are the silent guardian of their dreams. The rhythmic chime of the silver becomes a mantra, clearing your mind of all worry, leaving only the silver and the light. The midnight hour passes, marked not by a clock but by the gradual shortening of the oil lamp's wick. You reach for a heavy iron key, its surface cold and pitted with age, and unlock a smaller wooden chest bound in bands of black steel. As the lid creaks open, it reveals a collection of specialized coins, larger, heavier pieces used for the grandest transactions between the Rector and the foreign ambassadors. These are the prestige of Ragusa. You lift one, feeling its significant heft. It is broader than the common grosso, and the silver seems even purer, catching the amber light with a fierce, blinding intensity. You place it on the scale, a delicate balance of brass and silk thread. The needle quivers, dancing with a nervous energy before settling perfectly in the center. Satisfaction washes over you. Integrity is the soul of this city. A single grain of missing silver would be a crack in the foundation of the Republic's honor. You begin to stack these larger coins and the sound changes. It is no longer a high-pitched chime but a resonant, deep thrum, like a muffled bell tolling in the depths of a cathedral. Clink. The sound is authoritative. It speaks of galleons laden with silk, of salt mines that fund armies, and of the silver-tongued diplomats who keep the Ottoman shadows at bay. You are currently immersed in the tactile poetry of wealth, a sensation that is as much about the spirit as it is about the economy. As you work, you remind yourself that this order is what allows the poets in the piazza to write, and the shipbuilders in the arsenal to dream. The rhythmic repetition of your movements creates a space for reflection, a quiet pocket of time where the soul can catch its breath. If you're enjoying this journey into the tranquil depths of the past, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell so you never miss a moment of historical peace. Your support helps us keep these stories alive, preserving the quiet moments of history for everyone to share. Now you return your focus to the table. The piles of loose silver are shrinking, replaced by an ever-growing forest of shining towers. Your hands move with an instinctive grace, a dance of fingers and metal that has been perfected over years of solitary nights. The shadows on the wall seem to lean in closer, as if the very stones of the vault are curious about the final count. You pick up a handful of smaller coins, letting them rain down into a wooden tray. The sound is like a sudden summer downpour on a tin roof, a clattering, energetic burst of noise that briefly shatters the stillness before the silence rushes back in, thicker than before. You find a coin that is slightly tarnished, a dark patina of age veiling its luster. You take a piece of soft chamois cloth and rub it gently. Slowly, the face of St. Blaise emerges from the darkness, shining once more, restored to his rightful glory. It is a small act of devotion, a moment of care in a room filled with cold calculations. You place the restored coin at the top of the nearest stack, a crowning jewel in your silver city. The air in the vault remains cool, but the repetitive motion of the count has brought a comfortable warmth to your limbs. You feel a profound connection to the generations of clerks who sat in this very chair before you, performing the same ritual by the light of similar lamps. They are gone, their names lost to the ledgers of time, but the silver remains, the Republic remains, and for this night you are the link in the chain, the keeper of the rhythm, and the voice of the silver chime. The Adriatic continues to whisper against the stone foundations of the city, a reminder of the vast, restless world outside, but here inside the heart of the stone there is only the count, the light, and the unshakable peace of the silver pillars. You reach for the next bag, the weight of it promising many more hours of meditative labor, and you smile in the shadows. This is where you belong. The night deepens, and the silence within the vault becomes so absolute that you can hear the faint crystalline crackle of the oil lamp's flame as it consumes the wick. The stack of ledgers at the corner of your desk waits patiently, their vellum pages made from the finest calfskin, creamy and smooth, ready to record the finality of your labor. But the inkwell remains corked for now. The physical work is not yet finished. You pull toward you a massive heap of silver grossetti, the smaller siblings of the standard currency. They are light, almost airy in the hand, and when they move en masse, they create a sound like dry leaves skittering across a marble floor. You scoop them up, feeling the tickle of 100 tiny edges against your skin. This specific batch arrived just this afternoon from a merchant ship that had escaped a sudden gale off the coast of Durazzo. You can almost smell the lingering salt and the ghost of Mediterranean spray on the metal. As you begin to sort them, you find yourself marveling at the consistency of the Ragusan mint. Each coin is a perfect circle of sovereign intent. You start a new row of stacks, your hands working faster now that you have found the groove of the evening. The chime of these smaller coins is higher, a delicate soprano that dances through the vaulted chamber. Tink, tink, tink. The sound is playful, a sharp contrast to the somber weight of the larger coins you handled earlier. You find a coin that has been bent slightly at the edge. Perhaps it was caught in a heavy chest lid or stepped on by a frantic sailor. You take a small pair of silver pliers and, with a gentle, steady pressure, coax the metal back into its rightful shape. It is a moment of quiet repair, a small gesture of respect toward the currency of the Republic. Once straightened, it takes its place among its peers, its floor nearly invisible in the soft light. The walls of the vault, made of rough-hewn stone, seem to absorb the high-pitched ringing of the metal, preventing any echo from disturbing the sanctity of the count. You look up for a moment, stretching your neck, and watch the smoke from the lamp rise in a thin, elegant spiral toward the darkness of the ceiling. There is a strange comfort in being beneath the earth, tucked away from the stars and the moon. Up there, on the battlements, the guards are pacing, their eyes scanning the dark horizon for the lanterns of pirate ships or the sails of the Venetian fleet. But down here, the only movement is the sliding of silver and the slow transformation of a chaotic pile into a structured monument of wealth. You realize that your hands have become a tool of the state, an extension of the Republic's will to organize, to quantify, and to survive. The weight of the silver on the table is now immense. Several £100 of precious metal that could buy a fleet of small boats or feed a district for a year. Yet to you, in this moment, it is simply a series of tasks, a puzzle to be solved through touch and sound. You reach for a small wooden bowl filled with fine sand, used for blotting ink, and run your fingers through it to dry the slight moisture that the cold metal has drawn from your skin. The grit of the sand is a grounding sensation, a reminder of the physical world beyond the silver. Then back to the work. You begin to whistle a low, slow tune, a folk melody from the valley of Connevley, and the silver seems to clink in time with the rhythm. The melody is old, older than the palace above, and it ties you to the land that provides the silver. You feel a sense of profound continuity. The miners dig, the smiths strike, the merchants trade, and the clerk counts. Each role is vital, each motion necessary. The stacks are now so numerous that they reflect the lamplight back at you, a shimmering forest of silver that illuminates your face. You are the architect of this temporary city, and as the small grossetti continue to fall into place, you feel the peace of the vault settling even deeper into your bones. The world may change, empires may rise and fall, but the logic of the count is eternal. You reach for the next handful, the cold silver sliding through your fingers like a frozen stream, and the symphony of the vault continues. The deeper the night descends, the more the vault feels like a cathedral of industry. The heavy, stagnant air carries a hint of metallic ozone, a sharp scent that always accompanies the handling of large quantities of silver. You turn your attention to a collection of coins that have travelled from the furthest reaches of the Balkan hinterlands, tribute and trade from the inland mines. These coins are often dustier, carrying the fine red grit of the earth from which they were born. You take a soft brush made of fine badger hair and gently sweep the surface of a new heap. The dust rises in a tiny cloud, dancing briefly in the lamp's glow before settling onto the dark wood. As the silver is revealed, it seems to breathe, its surface catching the light with a renewed, piercing clarity. You start the next sequence of counting. This time, you focus on the tactile sensation of the edges. Some are smooth, while others possess the jagged, fresh burrs of the recent strike at the mint. You categorize them not just by value, but by their history. Your fingers have become so sensitive that you can tell a coin's origin just by the texture of its relief. You feel the microscopic dips and valleys in the silver, the tiny imperfections where the die didn't strike quite true. It is a secret language written in metal, known only to those who spend their lives in the silence of the counting houses. The rhythmic chink-slide thud of the process becomes a hypnotic loop. It is a form of prayer, a meditation on the tangible. In the outside world, things are ephemeral. Ships sink, storms pass, and reputations can vanish in a single day of bad luck at the harbour. But here the silver is constant. It is cold, hard reality. You find a coin with a small hole bored through the top, likely worn as a charm or a memento by a traveller before it found its way back into the treasury. You pause, holding it up to the light. Who wore this? Did it bring them the luck they sought? You set it aside in a special tray for coins to be melted and recast, but for a moment you acknowledge the human ghost attached to the metal. The stacks on the table are now reaching impressive heights, casting long skeletal shadows across the ledger books. You decide it is time to begin the preliminary tally. You dip a long goose-feather quill into the inkwell, the dark fluid clinging to the nib. The scratching of the pen on the parchment is a dry, rasping sound, a counterpart to the ringing silver. You record the numbers in a neat, disciplined hand, the black ink stark against the cream-coloured vellum. Each digit is a victory of order over chaos. Each line is a testament to the stability of the Republic. The lamp flickers, its oil running low, and you reach for a small brass pitcher to replenish it. The sound of the oil pouring is a soft, viscous gurgle, a gentle interruption to the metallic symphony. As the flame grows stronger, the room expands, the light reaching into the furthest corners of the vault where the heavy iron-bound chests sit like sleeping giants. You realize that you are the only soul in the city currently witnessing this particular splendor. Thousands of people above are dreaming of wealth, but you are the one living within it, touching it, and commanding its order. The solitude is not a vacuum, it is a presence. It is a heavy, comforting weight that keeps the distractions of the world at bay. You return to the coins, your hands moving with renewed purpose. The next bag is filled with florins from the Italian city-states, accepted here by weight and purity. They are thinner and broader, their gold-tinged silver reflecting a different hue in the lamplight. You treat them with the same meticulous care, their distinct chime adding a new, lower frequency to the room's acoustic landscape. The vault, with its thick stone walls and silent atmosphere, has become a world unto itself, a world where the only language is the count and the only time is the chime of the metal. You reach for another handful, the silver slipping through your fingers like cold, heavy rain, and you sink deeper into the peaceful trance of the 1450s night. The rhythm of the count has now become an inseparable part of your heartbeat. As the night stretches toward the early hours of morning, the forest of silver towers on your oak table has grown so dense that it creates its own landscape of light and shadow. You move your stool slightly, the wood creaking in the silence, and address a large tray of Venetian ducats that have been traded for Ragusan salt. These coins are different. They carry the prestige of the Serenissima, yet here in the Republic of St. Blaise, they are merely another weight to be verified, another value to be absorbed into the city's strength. You pick up a handful and they spill from your palm like liquid moonlight. The sound is a dense, cascading rattle, a sophisticated noise that speaks of high-stakes diplomacy and the deep water of the Grand Canal. You begin to stack them, and you notice how your movements have slowed, not from weariness, but from a deepening sense of reverence. The vault is no longer just a room. It is a temple of quietude. Every clink is a bell of mindfulness, calling your attention back to the present, back to the texture of the silver and the warmth of the oil lamp. The cooling stone walls seem to lean inward, protecting this moment of absolute clarity from the noise of history. You find a coin that is unusually bright, almost white in its purity. As you place it atop its pillar, the chime it produces is so clear that it seems to hang in the air for an eternity, vibrating against the stone arches before fading into the velvet darkness. If you find peace in these echoes of the past and the steady rhythm of a world long gone, please take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. We would love to hear what era of history brings you the most tranquility. Your engagement helps our community of history lovers grow. As you reach for the final leather pouch of the evening, you feel a bittersweet sensation. The task is nearing its end. The chaos has been nearly conquered. This last bag is lighter, containing the papyri of the local markets, the coins that have touched the most hands from the baker to the blacksmith. They are warm with the friction of the city's daily life. You pour them out, and the sound is earthy, a humble clatter that grounds the room's high finance atmosphere. You stack them with the same dignity you afforded the gold-washed florins, for in the eyes of the Count, all are essential. Your fingers move through the last of the silver, the cold metal, a familiar friend against your skin. The final stack is completed. You sit back, your hands resting on the edge of the table, survey the battlefield of order you have created. Thousands of silver pillars stand in perfect formation, reflecting the dying embers of the lamp in a breathtaking display of geometric beauty. You pick up your quill one last time to finalize the ledger, the ink flowing smoothly, sealing the night's work into the permanence of history. The Adriatic continues its rhythmic pulse outside, the eternal ocean oblivious to the silver city you have built in the dark. Sleepy History with Wesley is a sleep history storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. The ledger is nearly full, its pages heavy with the ink of 1,000 transactions, but the night still holds a few secrets. You reach into the far corner of the table, where a small forgotten pile of silver chips and broken coin fragments rests. These are the frustula, the pieces of silver that have been clipped or broken through centuries of use. In 1450, even a fragment of silver holds weight, and thus it holds value. You take a small precision scale, its pans made of beaten copper, and begin to weigh these silver ghosts. The sound they make is different. It is a soft, metallic whisper, like the rustle of a silk gown against a stone floor. Each fragment is placed into the pan with a tiny, delicate tink. You watch as the balance tips, the needle swaying with an almost lifelike hesitation. This part of the count requires the most focus. There is no rhythmic stacking here, only the careful observation of weight and gravity. The vault feels even smaller now, the shadows pressing closer as the oil in your lamp reaches its final reserve. You find a fragment that still bears the unmistakable curve of a crown, a piece of a coin from a kingdom that no longer exists, perhaps lost in the wars of the previous century. It is a sobering reminder that while the silver is eternal, The hands that strike it are not. You record the weight of the fragments in a separate column of your ledger, your handwriting remaining crisp despite the hours of labor. The cold of the vault has seeped into your marrow, but it is not an unpleasant cold. It is the chill of a crisp autumn morning, awakening the senses. You rub your hands together, the friction creating a dry, rasping sound that briefly competes with the silence. Above you, you imagine the first light of dawn beginning to touch the red-tiled roofs of Ragusa, turning the grey stone to gold. But here, the only dawn is the one you create with your lamp. You look at the vast array of stacks you have built. They are like a miniature skyline, a city within a city. You reach out and run your index finger across the top of a row of grossi. The sensation is one of incredible smoothness and incredible strength. You realize that you have not just been counting money, you have been weaving the safety net of the Republic. If a merchant's ship is lost at sea, this silver will build another. If a famine strikes the hinterlands, this silver will buy grain from Sicily. Your work tonight is the insurance of the city's tomorrow. You feel a deep, grounding sense of purpose. The repetitive nature of the task has cleared your mind of all the trivial anxieties of the day. There is no room for worry when one must focus on the purity of a chime or the balance of a scale. You pick up the last fragment of silver, a tiny sliver no larger than a fingernail, and drop it into the copper pan. The final weight is recorded, the tally is complete. You lean back in your chair, the old wood groaning in sympathy with your tired muscles. The vault seems to exhale with you, a long, slow release of tension. The air is still, the lamp is low, and the silver is silent. You have brought order to the chaos, and in doing so, you have found a piece of that order within yourself. The count is finished, but the peace remains, lingering in the cool air like the scent of old parchment. The silence that follows the completion of the ledger is the most profound silence of all. It is the silence of a task well done, a vacuum of sound that allows the history of the room to speak. You set the quill down in its pewter rest, the soft click echoing against the stone ribs of the ceiling. Your eyes, though weary from the flickering lamplight, wander over the silver landscape you have spent the night constructing. Each pillar is a testament to the discipline of the Republic. You reach out and touch the nearest stack, the metal now warmed slightly by your proximity, and you feel a strange sense of companionship with these objects. They are no longer just currency, they are the silent witnesses of your vigil. The oil lamp gives a sudden, final sputter, the flame dancing frantically for a moment before settling back into a low, blue-tinged glow. In this dimming light, the silver takes on a ghostly, ethereal quality, shimmering like the surface of the Adriatic under a crescent moon. You begin the process of returning the stacks to their permanent iron-bound chests. This is the reverse of the evening's beginning, a deliberate deconstruction of your silver city. You take a stack of 20 grossi between your thumb and forefinger and lower it into the velvet-lined depths of a heavy coffer. The sound is a muffled, heavy thud, the sound of wealth being put to bed. One by one the towers vanish. The oak table slowly reappears, its dark, scarred surface looking like a shoreline emerging as the tide goes out. With every stack removed, the room seems to grow slightly larger, the shadows reclaiming the space where the silver had glowed. You find yourself moving with a slow, deliberate grace, unwilling to break the spell of the night. The physical weight of the coins as you move them reminds you of the gravity of your office. You are not just a clerk, you are a weaver of stability. As you close the lid of the final chest, the heavy iron hasps falling into place with a definitive ringing clack, you feel the completion of the ritual. The room is once again just a room of stone and shadow, but it is a room that holds the potential of an entire civilization within its locked boxes. You take a deep breath, the air tasting of metallic dust and the fading warmth of the lamp. The night has been a journey through the very substance of time. You think of the ships that will sail tomorrow, fueled by the order you have established tonight. You think of the families in the city above whose safety is guaranteed by the contents of this vault. There is a profound, quiet power in this realization. Your hands, though stained with the grey dust of the mint, are steady. Your mind is clear. You have performed your duty to the Republic, and in return, the Republic has given you a night of absolute, unshakable peace. The world outside may be full of noise and fury, but here in the heart of the stone there is a rhythm that never falters. You pick up the lamp, the flame now a mere pinprick of light, and prepare to leave the vault to the darkness. The silver will sleep now, and so soon will you. Sleepy History with Wesley combines the power of AI to reimagine fictional historical tales, bringing peace, relaxation, and positive emotional values to our listeners. With the chests sealed and the ledger closed, you stand up from your stool, the movement sending a soft ripple of air that causes the lamp to flicker one last time. Your legs are stiff from hours of seated focus, and as you stretch, you feel the weight of the night's labor in the pleasant ache of your shoulders. The vault, now empty of the silver mountain that previously dominated the oak table, feels vast and cavernous. The echoes of the rhythmic chimes seem to linger in the very grain of the stone walls, a phantom melody of trade and order that only you can hear. You take a small rag and wipe down the surface of the table, removing the faint circles left by the silver stacks and the stray specks of dust. This final cleaning is an act of closure, a way to return the sanctuary to its neutral state before the sun fully rises over the Adriatic. You look at your hands in the dim light. They are the hands of a craftsman, though your medium is logic and weight rather than wood or clay. You move toward the heavy iron-reinforced door of the vault, the lamp in your hand casting a moving circle of light across the damp stone floor. Every step you take echoes with a hollow rhythmic sound, a final percussion to end the night's symphony. You reach the door and look back at the room one last time. It is a silent witness to the wealth of the Republic. A cool, dark womb where the future of Ragusa is nurtured in the form of silver coin. The oil in the lamp is almost gone now, the wick drowning in the last few drops of fuel. You step through the threshold and into the narrow winding corridor that leads upward to the Rector's palace. The air here is slightly warmer, carrying the faint, distant scent of the sea and the first morning charcoal fires of the city's bakers. Behind you, the heavy door swings shut with a groan of iron hinges and a deep, resonant boom that vibrates through your chest. You turn the massive key in the lock, the mechanism clicking into place with a sound of absolute finality. The silver is safe, the count is recorded, the order of the world has been maintained for another day. As you climb the stone stairs, the darkness begins to soften into a pale pre-dawn grey. You emerge into the courtyard of the palace, where the air is fresh and salt-tinged. The sky above is a deep indigo, fading into a soft lavender on the eastern horizon. The city is still quiet, but you can hear the first stirrings of life, the distant cry of a gull, the slap of a wave against the pier, the muffled footsteps of the night watch heading home. You feel a sense of profound serenity. While the world slept, you have held the heartbeat of the city in your hands. Your journey tonight was more than just a task, it was a pilgrimage into the quiet mechanics of history. You walk toward your own small quarters, the cool morning breeze fluttering your sleeves. Your mind is at rest, your heart is light, and the memory of the silver chime remains with you, a steady, tranquil anchor in the flowing tide of time. The night of 1450 is drawing to a close, and you carry its peace with you into the waking world. The transition from the depths of the vault to the upper corridors of the palace is like rising through a dark, cool sea toward the surface. Your footsteps on the stone staircase are light, unburdened by the weight of the silver you left behind. Though the heavy coins no longer rest in your palms, their texture remains etched into your fingertips. A ghost sensation of ridged edges and smooth faces. The palace is a labyrinth of shadows at this hour, the grand arches overhead catching the first hints of the morning's pale light. You pass by the tall, narrow windows of the gallery looking out over the harbour of Ragusa. Below, the water is a sheet of dark glass, reflecting the dying stars and the silhouettes of the great carracks anchored in the bay. These ships are the reason you count. They are the limbs of the Republic, reaching out to the ends of the known world, while you are the mind, keeping the tally of their reach. You pause for a moment, leaning against the cool stone of a window frame, letting the sea breeze wash over your face. It carries the smell of cedar, brine, and the ancient, lingering scent of the sun-baked earth of the Dalmatian coast. It is a sharp contrast to the metallic, dry air of the vault, and it grounds you in the changing of the guard, the changing of the day. You find yourself thinking of the silver once more, how it lies now in the dark, silent and potent. It is a strange thought that so much of the world's movement depends on things that stay hidden in the dark. The peace you feel is not just the absence of noise, but the presence of a vast underlying stability. The Republic is old, its laws are firm, and its currency is honest. In a world of shifting borders and rising empires, there is an exquisite comfort in being part of something that values the quiet precision of the Count. You move toward your quarters, situated in a quiet wing of the administrative complex. The wooden floors here speak with a different voice than the stone of the vault. They offer a soft, rhythmic creak that signals the return to the domestic, the human. Your small room is filled with the scent of dried lavender and old books. A single candle waits on your desk, and you light it with the dying flame of your oil lamp before finally letting the wick submerge and extinguish. The transition is complete. The night of the vault is over, and the morning of the city is beginning. You sit on the edge of your narrow bed, listening to the world wake up. A distant hammer strikes an anvil in the blacksmith's quarter clink, reminding you of the silver's chime. A bird begins to sing in the palace garden, its trill rising and falling like the swaying of the scales. You realize that the rhythm you found in the dark is everywhere, woven into the very fabric of life in 1450. It is a rhythm of labor, of value, and of rest. You lie back. The linen sheets cool against your skin. Your eyes close, and in the darkness behind your lids you see the silver pillars once more glowing with a soft, steady light. They are the markers of a night well spent, the anchors of your sleep. As you drift toward the shores of rest, the sound of the Adriatic remains with you, a low, constant hum that promises that tomorrow the ships will sail, the merchants will trade, and the silver will continue its eternal rhythmic dance. The city of Ragusa is safe, and so are you, held in the quiet embrace of history and the lingering echo of the Silver Count. The morning light begins to bleed through the shutters of your room, painting thin, golden stripes across the floor. Even as sleep begins to pull at your consciousness, your mind lingers on the weight of the ledgers and the purity of the metal you secured just an hour ago. There is a profound sense of closure in knowing that every grosso is accounted for, every florin weighed, and every discrepancy resolved. In the world of 1450, where shadows often hide the truth of one's fortune, you have carved out a space of absolute clarity. The rhythmic pulse of the city is rising now. The rhythmic thud of crates being loaded onto galleys, the distant call of the muezzin across the water, and the bustle of the morning market. Yet for you these sounds are merely echoes of the more fundamental rhythm you established in the silence of the vault. You are the silent architect of this city's confidence. Every time a merchant shakes hands on a deal in the piazza, they are relying on the work you did tonight. If you appreciate the meticulous care and the quiet dignity of this historical journey, please consider sharing this video with someone who needs a moment of calm. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to join our growing community of listeners who find solace in the steady heartbeat of history. Your engagement allows us to continue crafting these journeys into the peaceful corners of the past. As the world outside fully awakens, you find yourself descending into a deep, restorative slumber. The image of the silver pillars remains behind your eyelids, a shimmering city of order that stands guard over your dreams. You are no longer just a clerk of the Republic. You are a participant in a grand ancient cycle of effort and reward. The silver is more than metal. It is the crystallized labor of thousands, and you have treated it with the reverence it deserves. The coolness of the vault still seems to cling to your skin, a refreshing contrast to the growing warmth of the morning sun. You drift further away, the sounds of Ragusa becoming a soft, indistinguishable hum. The Adriatic Sea, the stone walls, and the silver coins all merge into a single, peaceful vibration. You have played your part in the grand symphony of the Republic. The count is done, the ledger is closed, and the vault is secure. In the quiet sanctuary of your room, you finally surrender to the peace you worked so hard to measure. The day will bring its own challenges, but for now there is only the silence of the finished task and the deep, uncomplicated rest of a soul in harmony with its purpose. The history of Ragusa continues to unfold, one heartbeat at a time, and you rest at the very center of its silver heart. Your sleep is not a void, but a continuation of the silver dream. In the quiet theatre of your mind, the stacks of grossi transform into the very towers of Ragusa itself. You see the Minchetta Tower rising high, not made of stone, but of shimmering, polished silver, reflecting the moonlight back toward the Italian coast. Every window of the city is a coin, every street a row in your ledger. This mental landscape is the ultimate reward for your meticulous labor. A world where everything fits, where every debt is paid, and where the arithmetic of life is perfectly balanced. Even in rest, the clink of the metal echoes softly like a distant bell buoy floating on the gentle swells of the Adriatic. It is a comforting sound, a reminder that the world is anchored by substance. You find yourself drifting through the memories of the night, the cold touch of the copper pans, the scratch of the quill, and the smell of the guttering oil lamp. These sensory details are the threads that weave your connection to the 15th century. You are a man of your time, yet the peace you have found is timeless. Outside your window the sun climbs higher, illuminating the white limestone of the rector's palace, turning the building into a beacon of order. The clerks of the day shift are now entering the offices above, their footsteps hurried and their minds filled with the frantic energy of the morning's trade. But you exist in the calm wake of their storm. You have already faced the mountain of silver and tamed it. The exhaustion you feel is a clean, honest fatigue, the kind that only comes from work that requires both the hand and the soul. You turn over in your bed, the linen rustling like the silk pouches that held the florins, the city's noise, the shouting of the fishmongers, the braying of donkeys carrying wood from the hills. The clatter of carriage wheels filters into your room as a distant melodic drone. It cannot touch the fortress of your silence. You are held in a state of grace, a lingering byproduct of the vault's sanctuary. You imagine the rector himself perhaps looking over the very ledger you signed, his finger tracing the elegant curves of your numbers. He knows, as you know, that the Republic survives because of the quiet ones who stay awake in the dark. The silver you counted tonight will pay the guards, buy the timber for the new galleys, and ensure that the walls of Ragusa remain unbreached. There is a profound poetry in the mundane act of counting. It is the bridge between the raw earth and the lofty ideals of a free state. As you sink deeper into this restorative darkness, the rhythmic shush of the sea against the city's foundations becomes the last thing you hear. It is the sound of the world breathing, a vast and eternal lung that mirrors your own steady breath. The count is part of you now, a silver heartbeat that will sustain you until the sun sets again and the shadows call you back to your stone sanctuary. Sleep, for now, is your only duty, and you embrace it with the same precision you gave to the silver. As the morning progresses, the deep velvet sleep of the exhausted clerk holds you fast. In this state of suspension, the boundary between the stone vault and the world of dreams remains thin. You find your mind wandering back to the physical sensations of the coins, the way a stack of 50 grossi feels when gripped between the palm and the fingers, a heavy, solid cylinder of potential energy. You recall the specific temperature of the silver, how it starts as an icy shock against the skin and gradually absorbs the warmth of your life, becoming a part of you. This heat exchange is a silent dialogue between the living and the mineral. Even now, in the safety of your quarters, your fingers twitch slightly against the sheets, unconsciously mimicking the act of sliding a coin across the oak table. It is a phantom habit, a signature of your devotion to the Count. The light in your room has shifted from the sharp gold of dawn to a broader, flatter white as the sun dominates the sky over the Adriatic. The life of the Republic is now in full swing. In the harbour, the great pulleys of the cranes are groaning as they lift bales of wool and barrels of wine, their rhythmic creak a rougher version of the precision you practiced in the dark. You are an essential cog in this vast machine, though you operate in the stillness of its centre. You think of the mint master, who will soon begin his day by melting down the tarnished or clipped coins you set aside. The cycle of the silver is never-ending. It is born in the fire, refined by the hammer, organized by your hand, and eventually returned to the flame to begin anew. This realization brings a sense of cosmic peace. Nothing is truly lost. It is merely transformed. The silver you handled tonight has existed for eons within the Balkan Mountains and will exist for eons more, perhaps in different forms, long after the Republic of Ragusa has become a chapter in a history book. You are merely its temporary guardian, its brief companion in the year 1450. This perspective makes the burdens of the day seem light. The politics of the Rector, the threats from the east, the rivalries of the merchant families, they are all temporary ripples on the surface of a deep, silver sea. Your work, in its simplicity and its honesty, touches something eternal. You shift slightly, the pillow cool against your cheek, and let out a long, slow breath. The smell of the sea is stronger now, drifting through the slats of the shutters, bringing with it the spirit of the horizon. It reminds you that Ragusa is a city of the water, a stone ship anchored to the coast, and the silver is its ballast. Without the count, without the order, the ship would tip. But because of your vigil, it remains upright and true. You surrender again to the pull of sleep, feeling the heavy, comforting presence of the city walls around you. The rhythmic clink of the dream silver fades into a soft, steady hum, like the sound of a distant hive. Everything is as it should be. The vault is locked, the ledger is true, and the keeper of the scale is finally at rest. The world of 1450 continues its march, but for these few hours time stands still in the quiet room of the clerk, held fast by the memory of the silver chime. The high sun of midday now beats against the white stone of Ragusa, but inside your quarters the thick masonry keeps the heat at bay, preserving a pocket of the vault's lingering chill. Your dreams have shifted from the literal counting of coins to a more abstract sense of flow. You envision the silver not as individual pieces of metal, but as a great shimmering river that flows out of the mountains, through the gates of the city, and into the hulls of the waiting ships. You see it spreading across the Mediterranean, a network of light connecting Ragusa to Alexandria, Barcelona, and the distant shores of the Black Sea. In this dream you are the gatekeeper of the river, the one who ensures the flow is steady and the waters remain pure. The responsibility, which felt like a series of small, rhythmic tasks in the waking world, now takes on a mythic quality. You realize that the order you impose in the dark is what allows the light of civilization to shine in the day. Each clink of a coin was a heartbeat. Each stack of 20 was a breath of the city. The sounds of the afternoon begin to penetrate the silence of your room, the ringing of church bells from the Cathedral of the Assumption, calling the faithful to midday prayer. The bells have a deep, resonant tone, a heavy bronze cousin to the silver soprano of your grossi. You listen to the fading echoes, and in the silence that follows you find a deeper level of rest. Your body, once tense with the precision of the scale, has completely surrendered to the bed. The sheets, though simple linen, feel like the finest silk from the Silk Road. You are experiencing the profound luxury of a clear conscience. There is no debt left unpaid in your mind, no column of figures that does not balance. To be a clerk in the Republic of Ragusa is to be a servant of truth, and truth is a very comfortable pillow. You think of the oil lamp you left behind, now cold on the oak table. It will be refilled this evening by a servant, its wick trimmed, its brass body polished. It waits for your return, just as the silver waits in its iron-bound chests. There is a strange, quiet intimacy between you and that room. It is the only place where the world makes perfect sense, where the complexities of human greed and ambition are reduced to the simple physics of weight and measure. In the vault, a man is judged not by his titles, but by the honesty of his silver. You find yourself smiling in your sleep, a faint expression of contentment. The world of 1450 is a place of great beauty and great danger, but you have found a way to navigate it with grace. As you drift toward the final stages of your slumber, the images of the vault begin to blur and soften. The sharp edges of the coins become smooth like river stones. The dark corners of the room turn into a soft protective velvet. You are being held by history itself. The Republic of Ragusa, with its centuries of survival and its unwavering commitment to liberty, is a fortress not just of stone, but of character. And you, in your quiet way, are a part of that character. The clink of the silver is the song of a free people, and you are its primary listener. You sink into the deepest, darkest blue of rest, where even the memory of the light fades, leaving only the steady rhythmic pulse of the Adriatic and the knowledge that everything is in its right place. The Count is eternal, the vault is secure, and for now the keeper of the silver is exactly where he needs to be. The late afternoon shadows begin to stretch across your small room, the sun dipping lower toward the horizon where the sky meets the blue expanse of the Adriatic. As the golden hour approaches, you stir from your deep slumber, the transition back to the waking world marked by a slow rhythmic return of awareness. Your first thought is not of the sunlight, but of the sound, the phantom chime of the silver that has played throughout your dreams like a persistent, gentle melody. You lie still for a moment, letting the coolness of the room settle over you. The physical memory of the vault is so strong that you can almost feel the weight of a heavy ledger in your lap and the cool metallic dust on your palms. This is the life of the counter. Even in rest, the silver remains. You rise and move to the window, pushing back the shutters. The city of Ragusa is bathed in a warm orange glow, the limestone walls of the surrounding buildings reflecting the sun's dying fire. Below, in the narrow streets, the pace of life has shifted. The frantic energy of the morning market has given way to a more relaxed communal atmosphere. Neighbors lean out of windows to exchange news, and the scent of roasting meat and fresh bread rises from the taverns. You watch the people below, the weavers, the sailors, the stonecutters, and you realize that none of them know of your night's work. They do not see the pillars of silver that secure their livelihood, nor do they hear the rhythmic count that ensures their city's independence. And yet there is a quiet satisfaction in this anonymity. You are the hidden gear in the grand clockwork of the Republic, ensuring that time moves forward with precision and truth. You prepare yourself for the evening ahead, washing your hands in a basin of cool water. The water splashes softly, a liquid echo of the silver's clatter. As you dry your hands, you notice that your movements are more deliberate, more graceful, as if the discipline of the vault has permanently refined your posture. You dress in your simple dark wool tunic, the uniform of a man who serves the state with his mind. Your room, though humble, feels like a palace because of the order you carry within you. You pick up a small, empty leather pouch from your desk, a reminder of the thousands you filled and emptied in the dark, and feel the texture of the grain. Every object has a weight, every action has a consequence. As you prepare to leave your quarters and head toward the refectory for a simple meal before the next vigil begins, you pause at the door. The city is transitioning from day to night, the first lamps being lit in the public squares. This is the cycle you inhabit, the movement from light to shadow, from noise to silence. You are the bridge between the two. The silver in the vault is currently resting in the dark, waiting for your return, waiting for the touch of the lamp and the rhythm of the count. You feel a pull toward the stone stairs, toward the subterranean quiet where the world makes sense. The Adriatic is turning a deep, bruised purple in the distance, the white caps of the waves catching the last of the light. It is a beautiful, restless world, but your heart is anchored in the stillness of the counting house. You step out into the corridor, your boots making a steady, rhythmic thud on the wood. A new tempo for a new evening. The count is not just a job, it is a philosophy, a way of being that celebrates the small, the precise, and the honest. As you walk toward the heart of the palace, the memory of the silver chime follows you, a secret music that guides your steps toward the coming darkness. The night of 1450 is beginning again, and the keeper of the scale is ready to serve. The walk toward the refectory takes you through the high-arched cloisters of the palace, where the evening air is beginning to cool. The transition from the private sanctuary of your room to the public spaces of the Republic is a gradual one. You see the scribes hurrying to finish their final correspondences, their quills scratching frantically against parchment, a sharp contrast to the slow, deliberate pace you maintain. To them, time is a fleeting resource to be spent before the sun sets. To you, time is the space between one silver chime and the next. You find a quiet corner in the hall and sit with a bowl of simple lentil pottage and a heel of crusty bread. The food is honest and grounding. As you eat, you observe the play of light on the stone floor, noticing how the lengthening shadows resemble the dark bars of the vault's ventilation grates. your mind is already descending the stairs, returning to the iron-bound chests and the heavy oak table. The meal is a brief interlude, a necessary refueling for the soul as much as the body. You find that you speak little to the other clerks. It is not out of arrogance, but rather because the language of the vault is one of silence and rhythm, and the chatter of the dining hall feels thin and superficial in comparison. They talk of the latest rumors from the Ottoman court or the price of grain in Ancona, but you're thinking of the weight of a single grosso and the purity of its ring. You finish your meal and rise, feeling the strength returning to your limbs. The night is calling. The Republic's heart is waiting for its keeper to resume the count. You return to the administrative wing to collect your keys. The bunch of iron keys is heavy in your hand, a physical manifestation of trust. Each key has a specific weight and a specific song when it strikes its neighbor. You tuck them into your belt, feeling the familiar pressure against your hip. As you move back toward the hidden entrance of the treasury, the noise of the city fades, the laughter from the tavern near the harbor becomes a distant murmur, and then, as you step behind the heavy tapestry that conceals the first stone door, it vanishes entirely. You are entering the realm of the eternal once again. The air grows cooler with every step you descend. It is a dry, preserved cold that smells of salt and old stone. You light your lamp at the wall, sconce, the flame blooming like a golden flower in the dark. The shadows retreat, scurrying into the corners of the staircase as you go deeper. You reach the final door, the one that leads into the counting chamber itself. You pause, the key in the lock, listening to the absolute stillness. There is no sound here except for your own breath and the faint rhythmic crackle of the lamp. You turn the key. The bolt slides back with a heavy, satisfying clunk, a sound that signals the beginning of your true day. As you step inside, the room greets you like an old friend. The oak table is bare and waiting, its dark surface reflecting your lamplight like a pool of deep water. The iron-bound chests sit in their rows, silent and pregnant with silver. You set the lamp in its accustomed place and pull out your stool. The wood creaks, a welcoming sound. You take a moment to simply sit in the silence, letting your senses adjust to the sanctuary. The world of 1450, with all its noise and light, is now miles away. Here there is only the silver, the stone, and the count. You reach for the first chest of the evening, your fingers eager for the cold touch of the metal. The night has officially begun and the rhythm is about to resume. The first chest of the evening yields a different treasure. Silver bars or somi, recently arrived from the deep inland mines. These are not yet coins, they are the raw, unrefined potential of the Republic. They are heavy, rectangular bricks of metal, their surface is matte and dull compared to the polished grossi. You lift one, feeling the immense density that pulls at your wrist. There is a primal satisfaction in handling the silver in its bulk form. You place it on the heavy-duty balance, the chains of the scale groaning under the sudden load. This is the foundation of Ragusa's power, the literal weight of the earth transformed into the weight of sovereignty. As you record the mass of each bar, you feel the gravity of your role intensifying. Every ounce must be verified, for these bars will soon be fed into the fires of the mint to be reborn as the city's currency. The process is slower than counting coins, requiring a different kind of patience. You must ensure the scale is perfectly zeroed, watching the brass pointer with an eagle's eye. The silence of the vault seems to amplify the tiny clicks of the weights being added to the opposite pan. If you find yourself mesmerized by the weight of history and the quiet precision of this ancient counting house, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. By joining us, you help preserve these stories of quiet craftsmanship and the steady, peaceful rhythms of the past. Your support allows the Sleepy History community to continue exploring the hidden, tranquil corners of our shared heritage. With the bars weighed and recorded, you turn back to the smaller pouches. You find one that is unusually cold, as if it had been stored in a cellar of ice. Inside are silver denarii from the northern territories. They are thin, almost like fish scales, and when you pour them out, they create a soft, papery rustle rather than a chime. You handle them with care, for their thinness makes them fragile. Your fingers move with a newfound lightness, adapting to the delicate nature of these specific coins. This is the beauty of the count. It is a constant exercise in adaptation. One moment you are lifting heavy bullion, the next you are feathering tiny slivers of silver across the oak. The oil lamp remains steady, its light a warm embrace in the middle of the cold stone chamber. You look at the walls, the rough-hewn limestone blocks stacked with the same precision you apply to the silver. You realize that the entire city is built on this principle of one block at a time, one coin at a time. It is the accumulation of small, honest efforts that creates a lasting monument. You feel a deep connection to the masons who laid these stones 200 years ago. They are gone, but their precision remains, just as your numbers will remain in the archives for centuries to come. The Adriatic is a distant whisper now, a reminder of the restless world that this vault protects. You reach for the next pouch, the silver sliding through your fingers like a cool metallic stream. The rhythm is back, the focus is absolute, and the peace of the 1/4 is night is once again your constant companion. As the second watch of the night begins, the air in the vault seems to thin, becoming even more still and crystalline. You turn your attention to a medium-sized cedar box that arrived via a courier from the mountains of Novo Borodo. When you lift the lid, the scent of the wood, sharp, spicy, and resinous, briefly overpowers the metallic tang of the room. Inside lies a collection of master molds and trial pieces from the regional mines. These are the prototypes, the first strikes of the die used to test the quality of the ore. You hold one up to the lamp. The silver is exceptionally bright, almost luminous, having not yet been dulled by the oils of 1,000 palms. The relief of St. Blaise is so sharp it feels like it could draw blood if pressed too hard. You run your thumb over the microscopic detail of the saint's crozier, marveled by the skill of the engraver. This is the art of the Republic, a marriage of beauty and utility that occurs in the quietest corners of the city. You begin to sort these trial pieces, checking for purity marks. Every few minutes, you pick up a small touchstone, a dark, fine-grained piece of schist. You rub a coin against its surface, leaving a thin metallic streak. Then you apply a drop of acid from a glass vial, watching the reaction with the intensity of an alchemist. The way the silver streak holds its color tells you the truth of its soul. If the streak remains bright, the silver is pure. If it fades or changes, the alloy is base. Tonight, every streak shines with the honesty of a summer moon. You record these findings in a specialized ledger, your quill moving with a quick, confident flourish. The scratching of the pen against the thick parchment sounds like a small animal burrowing through dry leaves, a sharp organic noise in the world of metal and stone. The rhythmic clink returns as you move back to the larger piles of common circulation coins. You find that your body has entered a state of flow, where the movement of your hands and the focus of your mind are perfectly synchronized. You no longer need to think about the count. The silver speaks to you directly through the tips of your fingers. You can sense a difference of even a half-gram in the weight of a coin without looking at the scale. It is a sensory mastery born of years of solitary practice. The stacks of grossi on the table are now becoming so numerous that they form long, shimmering lines that reflect the lamplight in parallel rows. It looks like a silver vineyard, harvested and organized with divine precision. The shadows on the wall move as the lamp's flame dances, making it seem as if the vault itself is swaying gently like a ship at sea. You feel a sense of profound safety in this stone belly. Above, the wind might be howling through the narrow streets of Ragusa, and the waves might be crashing with renewed violence against the sea-wall of the pile gate, but here there is only the silence. You pick up a handful of coins and let them fall slowly back onto the pile. The sound is like the falling of heavy metallic rain, a dense, percussive shimmer that vibrates in the very marrow of your bones. Each coin is a second of your life given to the service of the state, and in this exchange you find not exhaustion but a deep meditative energy. The world of 1450 is a tapestry of such moments, and you are currently weaving the most vital thread of all. You reach for the next bag, the weight of the silver a familiar and comforting burden, and the count goes on, unhurried and perfect. The night has reached that suspended hour where the silence of the vault feels almost liquid, flowing into every crevice of the stone walls. You reach for a wooden crate bound with thick tarred rope, a shipment from a Ragusan merchant who has just returned from the bustling markets of Cairo. As you slice through the rope with a small, sharp knife, the smell of distant lands spills out, a faint, ghostly aroma of cloves, cinnamon, and sun-scorched earth. Inside, the silver coins are mixed with small polished stones and protective linen scraps. You sift through the mixture, your fingers acting as a sieve, separating the silver from the debris. These coins, though mostly Ragusan, carry the physical scars of their journey. Some are blackened by fire, others are smoothed by the constant friction of camel saddlebags crossing the vast deserts. You feel the heat of the sun in their very metal, a lingering warmth from a world so different from this cool, subterranean sanctuary. You begin to organize them, and the clink they produce is slightly muffled, a tired sound from coins that have traveled thousands of miles. Yet as you rub them clean with a piece of rough canvas, their brilliance returns, a defiant shine that asserts their value once more. It is a slow, methodical process, much like tending to a garden. You are cleaning the harvest of the Republic's commerce. Each coin you place on the table adds to the silver architecture of the night. The stacks are rising higher now, some reaching 30 or 40 coins before you divide them into standard pillars of 20. You find a coin that has a tiny, deliberate notch on its edge, a secret mark perhaps used by a brotherhood of traders or a lone traveler to identify his own wealth in a foreign land. You trace the mark with your nail, a silent acknowledgement of the human stories woven into the currency. The oil lamp is half empty now, its golden light casting a long, soft glow that makes the silver look like a range of snow-capped mountains in the moonlight. You find yourself leaning closer to the work, the fine details of the coins becoming your entire universe. There is no past and no future, only the tactile present of the silver against the oak, the rhythmic sliding of metal across the wood, a soft, dry shush, followed by the definitive clack of the stack, has become the only clock you need. You are measuring time in silver. Above you, the Rector might be signing a treaty, or the sailors might be furling their sails as they enter the harbour. But those are just rumours of movement. Here, movement is precise, calculated, and absolute. A sudden, faint vibration shudders through the floor, the distant, heavy boom of the midnight cannon from the Lovrigenac fortress, signalling the change of the guard. It is a reminder that the world is still turning, that time is passing even in the eternal quiet of the vault. You pause for a momentary breath, closing your eyes and letting the vibration settle. It feels like a heartbeat, the city itself pulsing in the dark. You are in sync with that heart. You reach for a fresh stack of empty pouches, their linen coarse and strong, and prepare to begin the final sorting of this batch. The silver is ready to be rehoused, to be protected for another century, or perhaps to be sent out again on the next tide. Your hands move with a graceful, unhurried efficiency, the keeper of the scale once again lost in the meditative peace of the Count. The night of 1450 is a vast, starry expanse, and you are its silent navigator, charting the course with every silver coin that passes through your hands. The deeper you go into the small hours of the morning, the more the vault feels like a living, breathing entity. The stone walls, thick and cold, seem to vibrate with the collective weight of all the history they have contained. You turn your focus to a specialized leather bag, stitched with the seal of the city's salt monopoly. Inside are the grossi di Ragusa that have specifically funded the maintenance of the city walls. These coins are symbols of the Republic's skin, the very armor that keeps the chaos of the outside world at bay. As you pour them onto the table, the sound is exceptionally bright and aggressive, a hard, crystalline ringing that sounds like a sword being drawn from its scabbard. These coins have not travelled far. They have circulated within the city's heart, and their edges are still sharp, their lustre undimmed. You stack them with a sense of pride, for you know that the tallies you create tonight are the reason the stones of the walls stay mortared and the cannons at the gates stay polished. The rhythm of the Count clink, slide, stack is the cadence of a soldier's march, but it is a march of peace. In 1450, the power of a state is not just measured by the number of its men, but by the integrity of its silver. Every time your fingers press a coin into a stack, you are reinforcing a brick in the wall of the Republic. The silence of the vault is a powerful, heavy thing now, a silence that demands respect. You find yourself whispering the numbers as you count, your voice a low, rhythmic hum that blends with the crackle of the lamp. The oil is low, and the wick has begun to char, creating a small, dancing ember that casts long, flickering shadows of your hands against the ceiling. In this play of light, your fingers look like those of a giant, moving tectonic plates of silver across the earth. It is a humbling thought how much influence a single human can have when they are tasked with the care of a nation's truth. You pick up a coin that feels unusually heavy, you test it on the scale, and indeed it is slightly thicker than the rest, a fat coin, a rare occurrence of the mint master being generous with the silver. You set it aside in a special tray for further inspection, for in the world of the Count even a surplus is a deviation from the order. As you reach the end of the salt coins, you feel a deep, soul-level tranquility. The repetitive motion has become a form of prayer. You are not just counting, you are witnessing the flow of life through the medium of metal. The Adriatic's tide is beginning to turn outside, the water pulling back from the rocks of the harbour, and you feel that same pull in your spirit. The work is almost done. The city of Ragusa remains a beacon of light in a darkening world, and you are its silent, silver-fingered architect. One last pouch remains on the table, a small one, containing the offerings from the Rector's private chapel. You open it with reverence, the sound of these coins a gentle whispering rattle. The night is old, the silver is cold, and the peace of the 15th century is absolute. Sleepy history with Wesley is where the echoes of the past find their way to your heart, providing a sanctuary of calm in a busy world. The final pouch from the Rector's chapel is made of fine, midnight blue velvet, worn smooth at the corners by many hands. As you loosen the silk drawstring, a handful of small silver denarii spills out. These coins are different from the others. They have a soft, almost luminous quality, as if they have absorbed the candlelight and incense of the chapel. Their clink is delicate, a high-pitched, melodic ringing that sounds like the first notes of a choir in the morning. You count them with a slow, deliberate reverence. In the grand ledger of the Republic, these small offerings are just as vital as the heavy bars of bullion, for they represent the faith and the gratitude of the people. Each coin is a silent prayer given form in silver. You place them in a neat row, their surfaces shimmering under the dying light of your lamp. As you finish this final tally, you pick up your quill for the last time tonight. The ink in the well is nearly dry, a thick, dark liquid that clings to the nib. You write the final sum at the bottom of the page, the numbers flowing from the pen with a grace born of deep familiarity. You blow gently on the wet ink, watching the shine disappear as it soaks into the heavy parchment. The ledger is now a complete map of the night's work, a record of truth that will outlive the hands that wrote it. You close the book, the heavy leather cover meeting the pages with a soft, final thud. The sound echoes through the vault, a signal that the vigil has reached its natural conclusion. The silence that returns is even deeper than before. You sit for a moment, letting the stillness of the stone seep into your bones. The air in the vault is thin and cool, carrying the scent of metallic dust and the faint sweet smell of the velvet pouch. You look at the table now empty of coins, but still carrying the energy of the night's labor. You feel a profound sense of connection to the city above, which is just beginning to stir in the grey light of pre-dawn. The silver you have counted tonight is the foundation upon which the day will be built. It is the blood of the Republic, and you have ensured that it is pure and its flow is measured. You begin the final process of securing the vault. You return the ledger to its special niche, a stone shelf carved deep into the wall. You gather your tools, the scales, the touchstone, the small knife, and place them back in their wooden cases. Every action is a part of the ritual, a way of honoring the space and the work. The lamp is flickering now, the flame struggling to stay alive as the last of the oil vanishes. You pick it up and move toward the door, your shadow stretching long and thin across the floor. You step out into the corridor and pull the heavy iron door shut. The boom of the closing door is the final period at the end of a long silver sentence. As you turn the key in the lock, you feel the weight of the keys in your hand, a heavy, comforting reminder of your responsibility. You begin the long climb up the stone stairs, leaving the darkness and the silver behind. With every step, the air becomes warmer and the light becomes brighter. You emerge into the palace courtyard just as the first sliver of the sun breaks over the horizon, turning the grey stones of Ragusa into a pale, glowing gold. The night of 1450 is over, but the peace you found in the vault remains within you. You walk toward your quarters, a silent keeper of the city's heart, ready to rest in the knowledge that all is well. The count is true, the silver is safe, and the Republic endures. The morning air in the palace courtyard is crisp, carrying the sharp scent of rosemary and the salt spray of the Adriatic. As you cross the flagstones, the rhythmic sound of your own footsteps feels lighter, as if the gravity of the vault has been replaced by the buoyancy of the new day. You see a young page running across the arcade, his yellow tunic a bright splash of colour against the grey stone. He does not notice you, a shadow moving among shadows, but you watch him with a quiet smile. He represents the future of the city, a life propelled by the stability you spent your night ensuring. You reach your quarters and step inside, the familiar scent of old wood and dried herbs greeting you like a silent embrace. The transition is complete. The public servant has returned to the private man. You sit by the window for a moment before closing the shutters to invite the darkness back for your rest. Looking out, you see the first fishing boats returning to the harbour, their lateen sails glowing like the wings of moths in the morning light. The rhythm of the oars hitting the water is a steady, distant thud swish, a maritime version of your silver count. Everything in Ragusa is connected by these patterns of movement and measure. You realize that the peace you feel isn't just because the work is over, but because the work is meaningful. In the chaos of the 15th century, you have created a pocket of absolute certainty. The ledger you left behind is more than just paper and ink. It is a promise kept. You remove your boots and lay them neatly by the door, then unbuckle your belt with the heavy iron keys. Placing the keys on the small wooden table, you listen to them settle with a familiar metallic rattle. They are cold to the touch, still carrying the temperature of the subterranean depths. You wash your face with the last of the water in your pitcher, the coolness shocking your skin and clearing the last of the metallic dust from your senses. The reflection in the mirror shows a face marked by the night, eyes a bit weary, a smudge of ink on the cheek. Young, it is a face of a man at peace. You have looked into the heart of the Republic's wealth and found not greed but order. As you finally lie down, the bed feels like a cloud. The city outside is growing louder. The cries of the fishmongers and the ringing of the bell at the clock tower are becoming the soundtrack of the waking world. But for you, these sounds are a lullaby. They signify that the world is functioning as it should. Your mind drifts back one last time to the vault, imagining the dark silence where the silver now sleeps. The chests are heavy, the locks are firm, and the stone is thick. There is a profound comfort in knowing that some things are secure. If you have found a moment of stillness in this journey through the silver heart of 1450, please consider leaving a comment below. We would love to hear what part of this story brought you the most peace. Your breathing slows, syncing with the distant rhythmic pulse of the sea. The images of the day fade into a soft monochromatic grey, and the clink of the dream silver returns, quieter now like a distant heartbeat. You are falling into a deep, dreamless sleep, guarded by the very walls you help maintain. The history of Ragusa is a long, winding road, and tonight you have walked a few of its most important miles. Tomorrow the sun will set, the shadows will stretch, and the vault will call you back. But for now, there is only the silence, the softness, and the deep, restorative rest of the faithful counter. The night of 1450 has given you its greatest treasure, the gift of a quiet mind. The slumber that follows is thick and heavy like the velvet of the Rector's pouch. You sleep through the midday heat, shielded by the thick stone walls that have kept Ragusa cool for centuries. In your dreams you are no longer just a clerk, but a weaver of light. You see the silver threads stretching out from the vault, weaving through the loom of the city, tying the docks to the cathedral and the gates to the mountains. It is a beautiful, shimmering geometry. When you finally wake, the sun has passed its zenith, and the light entering the room is a deep, honeyed amber. You lie still for a few minutes, feeling the strength return to your hands. The stiffness of the night's labor has vanished, replaced by a calm readiness. You are a creature of the cycle, and the cycle is turning toward the shadows once again. You rise and dress with the same deliberate care as before. Each layer of clothing is a preparation for the vigil. You eat a small piece of dried fruit and a crust of bread, savoring the simple flavors. The city outside is beginning its evening transformation. The long shadows of the towers are stretching across the placa, and the air is filled with the sound of shutters being closed and lanterns being lit. You feel a sense of homecoming as you approach the palace. While others are ending their day, your true life is just beginning. You pass the guards at the entrance, who give you a silent nod of recognition. They know you as the man who vanishes into the earth, the one who keeps the tally of their wages and the city's strength. You descend the stairs once more, the air cooling rapidly as you leave the warmth of the Mediterranean evening behind. The silence of the corridor is a physical presence, a weight that settles comfortably on your shoulders. You reach the final door, and as the key turns in the lock, you feel a surge of quiet joy. This is your kingdom, a realm of logic, weight, and silver. You enter the vault and light the lamp. The shadows flee to the corners, and the oak table waits, dark and expectant. Tonight, a new shipment of coins from the Venetian traders awaits your inspection. They are grossetti, smaller and more delicate than the local currency, but essential for the Eastern trade. As you pour the first bag onto the table, the sound is like 1,000 tiny bells ringing at once. It is a lighter, more frantic rhythm than the heavy chimes of the previous night. You begin to sort them, your fingers moving with a speed that belies your calm demeanor. Each coin is a piece of a larger puzzle, a tiny fragment of the world's economy that you must fit into the Republic's grand design. The count begins. 1, 2, 3. The numbers form a silent chant in your mind. The rhythm is your anchor, the silver is your medium, and the vault is your sanctuary. The year 1450 continues its relentless march through history. But here, in the heart of the stone, you have found a way to make time stand still, one silver coin at a time. The Venetian grossetti are thin and agile beneath your fingertips, their silver content high and their strike remarkably consistent. As you slide them into stacks, they produce a high, metallic hiss, like the sound of a silk gown dragging across a marble floor. These are the coins of diplomacy and high seas intrigue, the currency that bridges the gap between the lagoons of Venice and the bazaars of the Levant. You examine the image of the Doge on their face, a tiny, stamped figure of authority that you verify with the same clinical detachment you show to the local saints. In the vault, power is measured in fineness and grains, not titles. You adjust the weights on your brass scale, the tiny pans swaying in the amber light of your lamp until they reach a state of perfect, motionless equilibrium. The rhythm of the night deepens outside. A light rain begins to fall over Ragusa, a soft patter against the high, narrow ventilation slits of the treasury. To you, the sound of the rain is merely another layer of the count, each drop a unit of water, just as each coin is a unit of silver. The world is a vast, interconnected series of measurements, and you are the one who ensures the math remains honest. You find a coin that has been smoothed by the touch of countless hands, its edges rounded and its features blurred. You hold it up to the flame, wondering if it has seen the silk markets of Damascus or the spice stalls of Alexandria. It carries the weight of 1,000 stories, yet here it is, returning to the silence of the stone to be weighed and judged. As the hours bleed into one another, the stacks of silver on the oak table grow into a miniature skyline, a city of metal mirroring the city of stone above. Your mind is clear, focused, and unburdened by the anxieties of the waking world. There is no politics here, no betrayal, no uncertainty. There is only the count. The scratch of your quill on the parchment is the only voice that speaks, recording the truth of the Republic's wealth with every stroke. You are the architect of confidence. Your numbers are the bedrock upon which the merchants build their dreams. As you reach for the next heavy leather bag, the clink of the silver greets you like a familiar greeting, a promise of continued order in a world that never stops moving. The keeper of the scale remains at his post, a silent witness to the enduring strength of the 1450s, wrapped in the cool, protective embrace of the silver night. The night hours stretch toward the early morning, and the rhythmic chime of the Venetian silver begins to harmonize with the steady dripping of the rain outside. You find yourself working with a specialized set of wooden calipers now, checking the diameter of the grossetti to ensure none have been clipped, a common deceit where the edges are shaved for a few grains of precious metal. Each coin that passes your inspection is a testament to the integrity of trade. You feel a sense of kinship with the honest merchants who carried these bags across the waves. Their survival depended on the very accuracy you are now confirming. The vault feels smaller, more intimate as the night progresses, the walls absorbing the warmth of your breath and the soft glow of the lamp. You are the heartbeat in the chest of Ragusa, a steady, unwavering pulse that keeps the body politic alive. As you reach the final bag of the Venetian shipment, you notice a single gold ducat accidentally mixed in with the silver. It shines with a fierce, sun-like intensity against the cool moonlight of the grossetti. You pick it up and the weight is startling. Gold, the king of metals, dense and unyielding. You hold it in your palm for a moment, feeling its unique heat. It represents a different level of transaction, the wealth of princes and the ransom of kings. You place it in a separate ivory tray, a solitary golden sun in a universe of silver stars. This small anomaly is a reminder that while your world is one of silver, the greater world of 1450 is a tapestry of many metals and many truths. You record the discovery with a precise note in the margin of your ledger, your handwriting as steady as a surgeon's hand. The lamp begins to flicker, a signal that the oil is nearing its end. You work faster now, but without sacrificing the grace of your movements. The final stacks are completed, the numbers are tallied, and the heavy bags are sealed with the wax of the Republic. You press the signet ring into the hot red wax, the emblem of St. Blaise appearing in sharp relief. This is the final act of the night, the seal of truth. You sit back, your muscles humming with a satisfied exhaustion. The vault is once again a portrait of perfect organization. Through the ventilation slits, the smell of wet limestone and the sea air drifts in, fresher now as the rain stops. The dawn is coming, and with it the end of your vigil. You blow out the lamp, and for a few seconds you sit in the absolute darkness, feeling the weight of the silver in the silence. It is a weight that does not burden but anchors. You are the keeper of the balance, and tonight the balance is perfect. The absolute darkness of the vault is not empty. It is thick with the presence of the silver you have just organized. In these few seconds of blindness, your other senses sharpen. You smell the cooling wax of the seals, the faint ozone of the finished rain, and the metallic tang that seems to coat the very air. This darkness is your reward, a moment of pure sensory reflection before you return to the world of light. You stand up, your knees giving a soft, familiar pop, and navigate the room by memory. Your hand finds the edge of the oak table, then the cold iron handle of the inner door. You move with the confidence of a man who knows every inch of his sanctuary. As you step out and relight a small hand torch from a wall sconce in the hallway, the shadows return to their places, long and obedient. You begin the ascent. Each stone step is a transition, a layer of the earth you leave behind as you climb toward the surface of the 15th century. By the time you reach the main level of the Rector's palace, the grey light of dawn is filtering through the high lancet windows. The air here is different, thinner, more restless. You see the night watchmen leaning on their halberds, their eyes heavy with the same fatigue you carry, yet they do not share your inner stillness. You hand over the keys to the master of the treasury, the iron bunch clinking as it leaves your hand. The transfer of responsibility is a weight lifted, yet a small part of your spirit remains below, guarding the silence of the coins. Outside, Ragusa is waking up in a palette of soft blues and pearlescent pinks. The wet stones of the Stradon shine like the scales of a great fish. You walk toward your quarters, passing the Orlando column, where a few early merchants are already gathering to discuss the day's prices. They have no idea that the very foundation of their commerce was measured and verified just hours ago by the man walking past them in the shadows. You feel a quiet, witty satisfaction in this secret. The world sees the gold and the silver, but it never sees the scale. Back in your room, you strip away the woolen tunic and wash the ink from your fingers. The water in the basin is cold, pulling the last of the vault's chill from your skin. You lie down on your straw mattress, the linen smelling of lavender and sun. The city's morning bells begin to ring, a resonant bronze call to prayer and work. To the rest of the world, it is the start of the day. To you, it is the signal that your duty is done. As you close your eyes, the image of the solitary gold ducat flashes in your mind, a bright spark in the silver sea. It is the last thing you see before the deep, restorative sleep of the keeper takes you, drifting away on a tide of rhythmic, metallic chimes. The sleep of the guardian is different from the sleep of the merchant. While the merchant dreams of profit and the sailor dreams of the wind, your dreams are structured by the cold, hard logic of the silver you serve. As the sun climbs higher over the limestone peaks of Mount Urs-Ard, casting a brilliant, blinding white light over the terracotta roofs of Ragusa, you are submerged in a subterranean peace. The sounds of the morning, the clatter of wooden carts on the stone, the shouting of sailors at the old port, the flapping of 1,000 pigeon wings, reach you only as a distant, muffled hum. They are the background noise of a machine that you have personally oiled with your precision. In this state of rest, your mind continues to sort the phantoms of the night's work. You see the Venetian grossetti floating in the air, aligning themselves into perfect, shimmering columns that stretch toward the ceiling of your mind. Midday passes in a blur of warmth and silence. The thick walls of your room are like the hull of a ship, keeping the turbulent sea of the city's life at bay. When you finally stir, the light in the room has turned to a deep burnt orange. The transition back to the world of 1450 is gentle. You sit up, feeling the blood return to your fingers that still possess the phantom sensation of the silver's edge. You spend a moment in quiet reflection looking at your hands. They are the hands of a craftsman, though your medium is not wood or stone, but the very essence of value. You realize that your life is a series of weights and balances, a constant adjustment to ensure that the Republic remains upright. You prepare for the evening meal with a sense of ritual. Tonight, you choose a small piece of salted fish and a cup of watered wine. The sharpness of the salt reminds you of the trade routes that bring the silver to your table. Everything is connected. As you walk toward the palace for your third night of the vigil, the air is thick with the scent of wood smoke and the sea. The evening star is visible now, a solitary point of light that mirrors the single gold ducat you found the night before. It is a guide, a constant in a changing world. You feel a deep, abiding strength as you descend the stairs for the final time this week. The vault welcomes you back with its familiar stony embrace. The air is still, the dust motes dancing in the beam of your torch like tiny flecks of silver. You set the lamp on the oak table and look at the ledgers. They are the holy books of the treasury, the silent witnesses to the Republic's survival tonight. The work is lighter, a final audit of the week's counts and the preparation of the reports for the Rector. You sit on your stool, the wood groaning softly, and open the first ledger. The numbers you wrote over the past few nights look back at you, a testament to your focus and your truth. You begin to cross-reference the tallies, your quill moving with the rhythmic grace of a conductor's baton. The clink of the coins may be absent tonight, replaced by the scratching of the pen, but the rhythm remains the same. It is the rhythm of order, the song of 1450, and you are its faithful singer. The night is young, the city is safe, and the keeper of the scale is home. The audit is a different kind of labor. It is the labor of the mind reflecting upon itself. As you scan the columns of figures, you are not merely looking at numbers, but retracing the movements of your own hands from the nights prior. Each entry in the ledger is a memory of a specific weight, a particular chime, or the texture of a certain bag of coins. You find the entry for the fat coin and the solitary gold ducat, noting their presence in the special inventory with a sense of completion. This is the moment where the physical silver is transformed into the abstract power of the state. The ink is dry, the math is flawless, and the integrity of the Republic's treasury is reaffirmed. You feel a quiet, witty pride in the fact that, should the Rector himself descend to these depths, he would find every grain accounted for, every gram justified. The atmosphere in the vault tonight is exceptionally tranquil. Without the constant clink of the coins, you become more aware of the subtle sounds of the building, the faint settling of the stone, the whisper of the air through the high vents, and the rhythmic beating of your own heart. It occurs to you that you have become a part of the architecture itself. You are as much a fixture of this treasury as the iron-bound chests or the oak table. This realization does not feel like a burden, but like an honor. To be a pillar of stability in 1450 is a rare and precious thing. You dip your quill into the inkwell one last time, your movements fluid and practiced, and sign the bottom of the audit report. The flourish of your signature is the final touch, a personal seal of approval on a week of perfect service. As you begin to tidy the workspace, putting the ledger back into its stone alcove, and wiping the dust from the table, you think about the city above. By tomorrow, these numbers will have been translated into decisions, contracts for new ships, payments for the city's defense, and the continued prosperity of the Ragusan people. You are the silent partner in every transaction that occurs within the city walls. You extinguish the lamp, letting the smoke of the wick curl into the dark, and stand in the silence for a long moment. The work is finished. The cycle of the vigil is complete. You walk toward the door, your steps echoing with a sense of finality and peace. The ascent is effortless. When you emerge into the dawn, the sky is a brilliant, clear turquoise, the color of the deep Adriatic. The air is fresh and carries the promise of a beautiful spring day. You walk through the quiet streets, your body tired but your spirit soaring. You have guarded the silver, you have upheld the truth, and you have played your part in the grand story of the Republic. As you reach your room and prepare for your well-earned rest, you know that the vault will remain secure in its silence, and the silver will wait patiently for your return. The night of 1450 has once again provided its greatest gift, the profound, unshakable peace of a job well done. The keeper of the scale closes his eyes, drifting into a sleep as pure and solid as the silver he serves. The transition from the intense focus of the audit to the freedom of a day of rest is like emerging from a deep, still pool into the warm air of a summer afternoon. As you lie in your bed, the morning sun painting slats of gold across your floor, you don't fall into the immediate heavy sleep of the previous days. Instead, you experience a light, drifting state of consciousness, a silver reverie. You are awake enough to hear the distant tolling of the church bells and the calls of the street vendors, but your mind is still tethered to the order of the vault. You think about the life cycle of a single coin, born in the heat of the forge, weighed by your hand, spent in a bustling market for grain or silk, and eventually returning to you worn and weathered to be counted once again. It is a perfect, never-ending circle. By late afternoon you rise, feeling refreshed in a way that sleep alone cannot provide. You decide to walk through the city as a private citizen without the keys at your hip or the ledger in your mind. You head toward the harbour, the bustling heart of Ragusa's commerce. The air here is thick with the smell of tar, salt, and exotic spices. You watch a Venetian galley dock, its oars rising in unison, like the legs of a giant insect. You see the merchants shouting, the porters straining under heavy crates, and the money changers sitting at their small tables. You look at the coins changing hands, the very same grossi and denarii you handled in the dark, and you see them now as they truly are, the energy that moves the world. A merchant pays a sailor, the sailor buys a loaf of bread, the baker pays for his flour. It is a dance of silver, and you are its silent choreographer. You stop at a small tavern near the water's edge and order a simple meal of olives, cheese, and a glass of local white wine. Sitting there, you blend in perfectly with the crowd. No one knows that you are the one who verified the purity of the silver in their purses. There is a delicious, witty irony in this, to be the most important man in the room and the most invisible at the same time. You watch the sun dip below the horizon, turning the Adriatic into a field of liquid fire. The beauty of the 1/5 is not just in the silver, but in the balance between the labor of the night and the life of the day. As the stars begin to appear, reflecting in the dark water of the port, you feel a familiar pull. The day of rest has served its purpose. It has reminded you of why the count matters. The order you maintain in the vault is what allows this vibrant, chaotic, beautiful world to exist. You walk back toward the Rector's palace, not to work tonight, but simply to be near the stone heart of the city. The Republic is at peace, the treasury is full, and the scales are balanced. You stand for a moment by the great Onofrio fountain, listening to the water splash against the stone, a liquid chime that echoes the silver music of your soul. The night is cool, the world is quiet, and for the keeper of the scale, life is a ledger where every entry is one of profound contentment. The evening of your rest comes to a gentle close as you stand by the harbour's edge, watching the moonlight dance upon the ripples of the Adriatic. The transition from the silent subterranean vault to the breathing living city has reached its zenith. You feel a deep harmony between the two worlds, the hidden and the seen. As you turn away from the water and head back toward the quiet cloisters of the palace, you walk with the rhythmic step of a man who knows his place in the grand design of 1450. The stone walls around you seem to hum with a shared secret, a mutual understanding of the weight of history. You are no longer just a clerk or a keeper, you have become a part of the city's very soul, a silent guardian of its truth. Back in your room, the air is cool and still. You light a single small candle, its flame steady and bright. You take a moment to look at your reflection in the polished surface of a silver basin, the very metal that defines your life. Your eyes are clear, reflecting the peace of a conscience that has never cheated a grain or miscounted a single dinar. Tomorrow, the vigil will begin anew. The iron keys will once again pull at your belt, the heavy doors will groan on their hinges, and the silver will sing its metallic song beneath your fingers. But for tonight, there is only the soft breathing of the city and the profound silence of a mind at rest. You extinguish the candle, the trail of smoke rising like a prayer into the darkness. As you pull the linen sheet over you, the sounds of Ragusa fade into a gentle lullaby. The count is finished, the audit is sealed, and the Republic is secure. You drift into a sleep that is as deep and unshakable as the foundations of the Rector's palace itself. In the heart of the 15th century, amidst the tides of change and the storms of history, you have found the ultimate treasure, the quiet, steady beat of a life lived in perfect balance. Sleep now, keeper of the scale, for your work is true, and the silver night is your sanctuary. The first light of a new week breaks through the arched windows of the palace, signaling the end of your brief hiatus. The cycle of the Guardian is relentless but rewarding. As you dress for the new shift, you feel a renewed sense of purpose. The previous nights were about maintenance and auditing, but rumor has it that a large caravan from the eastern mountains has arrived, laden with raw silver ore and foreign coins from the deep Balkans. This means the furnace at the mint will soon be roaring, and your role as the gatekeeper of purity will be more critical than ever. You tighten your belt, feeling the familiar grounding weight of the iron keys. They are the anchors of your existence, the bridge between the light of the piazza and the truth of the vault. When you descend the stairs this evening, the air feels different, heavier perhaps, or more expectant. The master of the treasury greets you with a rare, approving nod. "A heavy night ahead," he whispers, his voice rasping like dry parchment. You take the heavy leather-bound manifest from him and proceed to the iron door. As it swings open, the familiar scent of the vault, cold stone, old wood, and the faint ozone-like tang of metal rushes out to meet you. You light the three-wicked lamp on the central table, and the shadows retreat with practiced obedience. Waiting for you are several massive iron-bound chests that were not there before. These are the mountain chests, rougher and more scarred than the elegant boxes of the Venetian trade. You open the first one, and instead of neatly stacked coins, you find a chaotic treasure of somi bars and papyri from the Serbian and Bosnian mines. They are dull and grey, coated in a fine layer of rock dust. As you lift the first bar, the sheer density of it vibrates through your arms. You place it on the heavy-duty balance, and the brass pans clang with a sudden authoritative finality. This is the raw power of the earth, unrefined and honest. You begin the process of cleaning and weighing, each bar requiring a separate entry for its weight and perceived fineness. The clink of the coins is replaced by the thud of the bullion, a deeper, more percussive sound that echoes in the very floorboards of the treasury. The work is physically demanding, yet it provides a different kind of meditation. You are witnessing the very beginning of the Republic's wealth. Each bar you verify will soon be melted, refined, and stamped with the image of St. Blaise. You are the first to acknowledge its value, the first to welcome it into the state's ledger. As the hours pass, the mountain of dust-covered silver begins to transform into a neat, organized row of verified assets. The scratching of your quill is constant, a rhythmic counterpoint to the heavy lifting. The night of 1450 is deep and cold outside, but here, in the heart of the stone, the fire of commerce is being fueled by your meticulous care. You reach for the next bar, your hands becoming grey with the dust of the mines, feeling a profound connection to the labourers who pulled this wealth from the dark earth. The count continues, unhurried and absolute, as the keeper of the scale maintains the balance of the world. The silver bars, or sommi, feel cold and primal in your hands. Unlike the refined coins that have been smoothed by the warmth of human pockets, these bars carry the raw, jagged energy of the deep earth. As you work through the second iron-bound chest, you find yourself using a small iron brush to clear the limestone grit from the stamped hallmarks of the mountain foundries. Each stroke of the brush creates a dry, rhythmic shir-shir sound that fills the silence of the vault. The dust rises in the lamplight like a ghostly mist, settling on your sleeves and the edges of the ledger. You don't mind. This is the dust of the mountains, the physical residue of the Republic's expansion. Every bar you verify is a potential 1,000 grossi, a future of trade, a future of security. You come across a bar that is unusually shaped, almost like a teardrop of frozen moonlight. When you strike it lightly with a small tuning hammer to test its density, it emits a low, resonant hum, a sound so deep it seems to vibrate in your very teeth. This singing silver is a sign of exceptional purity. You pause for a moment, letting the sound fade into the stone walls. In the quiet of 1450, such a sound feels like a message from the depths of the world, a confirmation that despite the chaos of border wars and shifting empires, the earth still yields its treasures to those with the patience to seek them. You record its weight with extra care, your quill pressing firmly into the parchment, ensuring that this specific piece of the mountain is perfectly documented. As the middle of the night approaches, your back begins to ache from the heavy lifting, but it is a good ache, the physical manifestation of a duty fulfilled. You decide to take a short break, leaning back against the cool stone wall and sipping a bit of water from your leather flask. The vault feels different tonight. The presence of the raw bullion makes the room feel heavier, more grounded. You look at your hands, now stained a dark metallic grey. You look like a statue coming to life, a creature of the silver world. There is a witty sense of satisfaction in knowing that while the rest of the city dreams of finished jewelry and glittering coins, you are here at the source, handling the very bones of the economy. You return to the task, moving to the third chest. This one contains a mixture of foreign coins, Hungarian ducats and Ottoman akshays that have been traded for Ragusan salt at the mountain outposts. Sorting these requires a different mental gear. You must identify each minting, check for debasement, and calculate their value in Ragusan grossi. The clink returns, but it is a disjointed multicultural sound, a frantic clatter of different alloys and different histories. You are the translator of this metallic language. You take a coin, flip it, weigh it, and assign it its place in the ledger. One by one, the chaotic contents of the mountain chests are brought into the orderly fold of the Republic. The lamp flickers, hungry for more oil, but you have enough light to finish the row. The night is a vast, silent ocean, and you are rowing steadily toward the dawn, your cargo of silver safe and accounted for. The final chest of the mountain shipment yields a surprising variety of smaller silver fragments, scraps of trade that tell a story of the high passes and the deep valleys. Here are broken pieces of ancient jewelry, silver wire used for embroidery, and even a few silver nails from a ceremonial casket. To most, this would look like a pile of rubble. To you, it is simply weight, and weight is value. You pour these fragments into the copper pan of your scale. The sound is like a summer hailstorm hitting a metal roof, a chaotic staccato rattle that eventually settles into a dull, heavy stillness. You find a small silver ring set with a piece of dark, unpolished amber. For a brief second, you imagine the person who wore it, perhaps a merchant's wife or a mountain traveler who had to trade their last ornament for a bag of grain. You weigh it with the same respect you gave the great silver bars. In the grand ledger of Ragusa, no prayer is too small and no scrap is too humble to be counted. As you finalize the entries for the mountain ore, the air in the vault begins to shift. The intense cold pressure of the night is beginning to thin, replaced by that subtle pre-dawn vibration that only someone deep underground can truly feel. You look at your ledger, the columns are straight, the tollies are cross-referenced, and the ink is drying into a permanent black record of the Republic's growth. You have processed more silver tonight than most men see in a lifetime. Your hands are blackened with the soot of the mines and the tarnish of ancient coins, but your spirit feels polished. There is a profound sense of closure in seeing the empty chests standing open, their heavy lids leaning against the wall like tired giants. You begin the ritual of cleaning. You use a damp cloth to wipe the dust from your table and the brass pans of your scale. Watching the grey grit vanish to reveal the shining metal beneath is a small personal pleasure. You are restoring order to your workspace just as you have restored order to the city's wealth. The lamp is now just a tiny dying ember in a pool of oil, casting a soft red glow that makes the shadows of the vault seem to pulse like a slow heartbeat. You stand for a moment, listening to the absolute silence somewhere above. The first priest is entering the cathedral, and the first baker is pulling bread from the oven. Their world is starting, and your world is safely tucked away. You pick up the ledger and place it in its niche, then gather your tools. As you move toward the door, you realize that the weight you carry isn't the silver, it's the truth of the silver. You step out into the corridor and lock the iron door, the click of the tumblers sounding like a final, decisive amen. The walk up the stairs is slower tonight. The physical labor has left its mark on your limbs, but your mind is buoyant. Emerging into the cool blue light of the morning, you see the city of Ragusa draped in a light mist, looking like a dream made of stone. You head toward your quarters, a man who has touched the raw heart of the 1/5 and found it solid, pure, and balanced. The keeper of the scale has finished his work, and the world is richer for his silence. The sleep that follows the mountain silver shift is deep and dreamless, a heavy immersion into the darkness that mirrors the very mines the ore came from. When you finally wake, the afternoon sun is casting long golden fingers across your bedroll, and the city's noise has reached its midday peak. You wash the metallic dust from your arms and neck, watching the water in the basin turn a murky slate grey. It takes several rinses before your skin feels like your own again. As you dry yourself, you look out at the terracotta sea of roofs. The silver you counted last night is already being prepared for the crucibles. Soon it will lose its jagged mountain identity and become the smooth, standardized currency that allows this city to breathe. You feel like a witness to a resurrection, the old rough earth being reborn as the refined spirit of commerce. By evening you are back at the palace, but tonight there is a different energy in the air. The Rector's Council is in session, and the muffled sound of voices drifts down from the upper chambers. You descend into your sanctuary, feeling the familiar drop in temperature as the stone walls reclaim you. Tonight's task is specialized. You are to inspect a batch of papyri that have returned from the southern trade routes. These coins are often worn, their edges softened by the heat of the sun and the sweat of many hands. As you pour them out, the sound is muffled and dull, a clack rather than a clink. They sound tired, like travelers who have walked 1,000 miles. You sit at your oak table, the lamplight catching the weary surfaces of the silver. You find yourself noticing the tiny scratches and dents on each coin, the scars of their journey. One coin has a deep gouge, perhaps from a soldier's knife testing its metal. Another is stained with a dark residue that smells faintly of saffron and cloves. You are not just counting wealth tonight, you are reading the diary of the Mediterranean. Every coin is a page and every scratch is a sentence. You work slowly, giving these tired travelers the respect they deserve. You check their weights against the standard, finding that many have lost a fraction of a grain to the friction of existence. You record these losses with a gentle hand, for even in depletion, there is a story of utility. The night deepens, and the silence of the vault becomes a warm blanket. You find a coin that is almost completely smooth, its image of the saint nearly erased by time. You hold it up to the flame, and for a moment, the lamplight recreates the lost features in shadow. It is a beautiful, fleeting ghost of a coin, You realize that your role is to preserve the integrity of the whole, even as the individual parts wear away. You are the custodian of the ideal, ensuring that the Republic's value remains constant even when its physical manifestations grow old. The scratch of your pen is the only sound, a steady, comforting rhythm that anchors the night. As you reach the end of the pile, you feel a profound sense of peace. The world outside is a place of wear and tear, of friction and change, but here in the ledger everything is made whole again. The keeper of the scale remains vigilant, a bridge between the worn reality of the streets and the perfect truth of the treasury. The final tally of the worn papyri brings a quiet close to the night's labor. You gather the coins back into their linen sacks, their dulled surfaces brushing against one another with a soft papery rustle. These are the veterans of the trade routes, soon to be retired and sent to the furnace to be born anew. You feel a strange sense of kinship with them. Like you, they have performed their duty in the shadows and the heat, and now they return to the source to find rest. You record the total weight of the worn silver in a separate column of the ledger, using a slightly lighter touch with the quill, as if honoring their frailty. The ink pools slightly on the page, dark and reflective like a mountain lake in the moonlight. As you stand up to stretch your cramped muscles, you notice a small, forgotten object in the corner of the oak table, the silver ring with the unpolished amber you found during the mountain ore shift. In the quiet, lonely hours of 1450, it seems to glow with a life of its own. You pick it up once more, feeling the warmth of the amber against your thumb. It is a reminder that beyond the cold mathematics of the Republic, there are people, living, breathing souls who hope, fear, and love. You decide to place the ring in a small velvet-lined box reserved for curiosities of the treasury, items too unique or personal to be melted down immediately. It is your small way of preserving a piece of humanity in a world of cold metal. The lamp begins its final dance, the flame shrinking to a tiny blue-white point. You don't rush to refill it. Instead, you allow the darkness to slowly reclaim the vault inch by inch. You know this space so well that you can feel the location of every chest and the curve of every stone arch. You are the shadow among shadows, the one who remains when the light fails. You close the ledger, the sound of the heavy cover meeting the parchment echoing like a soft heartbeat in the hollow room. Everything is in its place. The weights are aligned, the coins are bagged, and the truth of the city's wealth is safely captured in your graceful sloping script. You make your way to the surface, the transition from the silent subterranean world to the waking city feeling more profound than usual. The morning air is thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the salt spray of the incoming tide. As you walk toward your quarters, you see the first shafts of sunlight hitting the golden domes of the cathedral. The city is beautiful, but you know that its beauty is built upon the silent, steady work you perform in the dark. You are the foundation, the keeper of the scale, the one who ensures that when the sun rises it shines upon a city that is honest, strong, and true. With a sigh of deep, weary contentment, you close your eyes and let the light of 145 carry you, close, let's slumber that takes you is flavored by the scent of lavender and the distant salt of the Adriatic, a deep immersion into a world where numbers no longer exist. In this dream, the silver doesn't clink or thud. It flows like a river of moonlight through the streets of Ragusa, nourishing the stones and the souls of the people. You see the city from above, a fortress of logic and beauty held together by the invisible threads of the tally you keep. When you finally wake, the afternoon is waning, and the light in your room has turned a rich, dusty ochre. You feel a sense of profound integration. The dust of the mountain ore, the wear of the papyri, and the brilliance of the Venetian gold have all become a part of your own history. You are no longer just observing the wealth of the Republic, you are its living memory. You rise and prepare for what will be your final night of this specific vigil. There is a tradition among the keepers of the scale. The last night of a long count is dedicated to the cleaning of the tools. It is a night of quiet maintenance, ensuring that the instruments of truth are as precise as the truth they measure. You dress in your finest wool, a gesture of respect for the sanctuary you are about to enter. As you walk through the palace, the guards seem to stand a little straighter, sensing the completion of your task. The air in the corridor is cool and welcoming, like an old friend waiting at the door. Inside the vault, you don't reach for the heavy bags or the iron-bound chests. Instead, you lay out your brass weights, your ivory-handled brushes, and your silver-tipped quill. You spend the first hours of the night polishing the weights with a soft chamois cloth, removing the microscopic layers of tarnish and skin oils that could, over time, alter their accuracy. As you work, the weights begin to shine like miniature suns under the lamplight. One by one, you test them against the master standard, a heavy, lead-sealed cylinder of absolute measure kept in a velvet-lined niche. Every time the pans of the scale come to a perfect, trembling rest at the exact center, you feel a thrill of witty satisfaction. In a world of shifting political alliances and changing tides, these weights are the only things that do not lie. The middle of the night finds you cleaning the oak table itself, rubbing it with a mixture of beeswax and linseed oil until the grain of the wood glows with a deep inner fire. The scent is intoxicating, earthy, sweet, and ancient. You realize that this table has felt the weight of millions of coins and the hands of keepers who lived long before you were born. You are just a link in a chain, a temporary guardian of a permanent order. This thought doesn't diminish you, it elevates you. You are part of something that transcends the year 1450. As you pack your tools away into their leather cases, the vault feels more spacious, more holy. The light of your lamp reflects off the polished brass and the oiled wood, creating a cathedral of shadows and gold. As the dawn approaches, you take one final look at the ledger. You don't write any new numbers. You simply run your fingers over the dry ink of the week's work, feeling the texture of the truth. You have accounted for the mountains, the seas, and the wear of time itself. You blow out the lamp, but instead of leaving immediately, you stand in the darkness for a full minute, breathing in the silence. It is the silence of a job well done, the silence of a city that can sleep because you were awake. You step out, lock the door with a final resonant click, and begin your final ascent. Outside, the sky is a pale, translucent violet, and the morning star is a piercing diamond over the sea. You are the keeper of the scale, and the world is in balance. The walk back to your quarters on this final morning feels lighter than any before. Your boots make a hollow, rhythmic sound on the damp stones of the Stradoon, a sound that matches the satisfied thrumming of your heart. The city is just beginning to stir. The smell of fresh yeast from the baker's ovens mingles with the sharp, clean scent of the sea breeze. You pass the Rector's palace one last time, looking up at its sturdy columns. You know what lies beneath those stones, and that knowledge gives you a secret strength. You have seen the raw metal, the worn currency, and the perfect weights. You have held the heartbeat of Ragusa in your hands and found it steady. Upon reaching your room, you don't immediately seek sleep. Instead, you sit by the window and watch the sun pull itself out of the Adriatic. The horizon turns from a bruised purple to a violent, glorious orange. In the 1450s, the world feels vast and mysterious. Yet here, within the walls of this republic, everything is governed by the laws of the scale. You pick up a small, smooth stone you found on the beach weeks ago and weigh it in your hand, guessing its mass by instinct. You are within a grain of the truth. It is a gift, a byproduct of the long, silent hours in the vault to perceive the weight of the world with such intimacy. This vigil is over, but your life as the Guardian is a permanent state of being. You know that in a few days, the Master of the Treasury will summon you again. There will be new shipments from the east, new galleys from the west, and perhaps more of those curiosities that tell the human side of the silver story. You look forward to it with a calm anticipation. For now you allow yourself the luxury of a slow breakfast, a piece of sharp cheese, a handful of almonds, and a cup of wine watered just enough to be refreshing. Each bite is a celebration of the senses you have kept so sharp in the dark. As you finally lie down, the room is filled with the bright, unapologetic light of day. The morning bells of the Franciscan monastery begin to toll, their bronze voices echoing the silver music you've lived by all week. You close your eyes, and instead of stacks of coins, you see the faces of the people you saw in the market, the baker, the sailor, the merchant's wife. You see them through the lens of the silver that connects them all. You are the invisible thread that keeps their world from unraveling. With a faint, witty smile playing on your lips, you drift into a deep, restorative sleep. The keeper of the scale is at rest, his work etched into the ledger of history, and the balance of 145 remains perfect. The slumber that follows the completion of a grand cycle is not merely rest, it is a deep, architectural restoration of the soul. In your dreams, the geometry of the vault expands, the stone arches stretching upward until they merge with the constellations of the night sky. You see the silver as a living essence, a flowing mercury that binds the mountains to the sea. When you finally wake, the world feels sharp and new, as if the very air has been polished by your efforts. You spend the afternoon in the courtyard of the palace, watching the play of light on the fountain. The water's constant rhythmic splashing is a liquid tally, counting the seconds of a republic that prides itself on its endurance. You are no longer just a servant of the treasury. You are a witness to the flow of time itself. As evening approaches, a messenger arrives at your door. He bears a scroll sealed with the signet of the Mint Master. It is not a summons to return to the vault, not yet, but a request for your presence at the grand smelting scheduled for the following night. The raw mountain silver you processed is ready to be transformed. This is the next stage of the alchemy of the 1450s. You accept the invitation with a silent nod, feeling a surge of anticipation. To see the metal in its liquid state, glowing with a heat that matches the intensity of your focus, is a rare privilege. It is the moment where the abstract numbers in your ledger become the physical reality of the state. The night is spent in quiet preparation. You walk the ramparts of the city, looking out at the dark expanse of the Adriatic. The distant lanterns of fishing boats bob like fallen stars on the water. You think about the interconnectedness of all things, the miner in the dark mountain, the sailor on the unpredictable wave, and you, the keeper of the scale, who ensures that the value between them remains honest. The breeze carries the scent of wild thyme and roasting meat from the taverns below, a reminder of the life your work supports. You feel a profound sense of gratitude for this role. In a world of chaos, you are a point of absolute stillness. As the morning of the smelting dawns, you find yourself back at your window, watching the city wake. The stone of Ragusa seems to breathe in the early light, the pale pinks and greys of the limestone reflecting the promise of a new day. You are ready. The weights are clean, the ledger is closed, and the silver is waiting for its fire. You realize that while the coins may be stamped with the images of saints and sovereigns, it is the integrity of the count that gives them their true power. You are the architect of that power, the silent partner in every dream of wealth and every prayer for security. The cycle of 1450 continues, and as the keeper of the scale, you move toward the flame with a steady heart and an unwavering eye. The night of the smelting arrives with a heat that you can feel even before you reach the lower levels of the mint. The air in the narrow stone corridors leading to the foundry is thick and dry, a sharp contrast to the damp, cool silence of your vault. When you enter the chamber, the scene is one of controlled inferno. The crucibles are glowing a terrifying, brilliant orange-white, reflecting in the sweat-streaked faces of the foundry men. These men are the titans of the Republic, moving with a heavy, deliberate grace as they handle long iron tongs and stone molds. You stand at a respectful distance, the master of the mint at your side. Your ledger is open, but for now it serves only as a witness. The mountain silver you weighed with such care is now being surrendered to the flame. You watch as a bar of the raw silver is lowered into the heat. For a few moments it resists, a stubborn grey shadow in the brilliance. Then it begins to soften, its edges weeping into a pool of liquid light. This is the moment of ultimate purification. The impurities, the dross and the mountain dust rise to the surface to be skimmed away by the master's ladle. What remains is a shimmering, restless mirror of pure value. It is beautiful and dangerous. You realize that your work in the vault was the intellectual tempering of this metal, and now the fire provides the physical one. The clink and the thud are gone, replaced by the roar of the furnace and the rhythmic hiss of the molten silver as it is poured into the ingot molds. As the liquid metal settles into the stone shapes, it begins to cool, turning from a blinding white to a cherry red, and finally to a dull, darkening grey. You feel a witty sense of pride. The weights you recorded in your ledger are being confirmed by the very physics of the melt. The metal does not lie under the pressure of the heat any more than it lies under the pressure of your scale. You and the fire are seeking the same truth. The mint master turns to you, his eyes red from the glare. "It is good metal," he says, his voice a low growl over the crackle of the coals. "Your count was true, keeper. Those 4 words are the highest praise you could receive. They are the verbal seal on your week of labor." By the time the last ingot is poured and the furnaces are banked, the first light of dawn is creeping into the foundry through the high smoke vents. You are covered in a fine layer of soot, your eyes are stinging and your lungs feel the weight of the scorched air. But as you walk back to your quarters, passing through the quiet blue-grey streets of Ragusa, you feel a sense of completion that is almost spiritual. The raw mountain ore has been refined. The numbers have been validated, and soon the new coins will be struck. You have seen the entire journey of the silver, from the dark earth to the brilliant fire. As you wash your face in the cold water of your basin, you see a man who is part of a grand elemental cycle. The keeper of the scale has done more than count. He has presided over a transformation. The world of 1450 is solid, the silver is pure, and the balance is, as always, absolute. The days following the smelting are a period of quiet observation. You walk the city with a heightened sense of awareness, knowing that the very silver you saw as liquid fire is now being stamped into the perfect circular grossi of the Republic. You can almost hear the rhythmic thump-thump of the mint's heavy hammers echoing through the stone foundations of the city. To the common citizen, a coin is merely a tool for survival. To you, it is a piece of captured light, a fragment of the mountain that has passed through your hands, your ledger, and the crucible. You find yourself standing near the custom house, watching as merchants pay their duties. When you hear the sharp, clear ring of a new coin hitting the wooden counter, you smile. That specific pitch, the song of the new silver, is a sound only a keeper truly appreciates. It is the sound of a promise kept. Your return to the vault for the next shift feels like a homecoming. The air has cooled again, reclaiming its stony neutrality. However, tonight there is a new task waiting for you. On your oak table sits a small, iron-wrapped wooden box, sealed with the wax of the Rector's own signet. Beside it is a parchment scroll containing instructions written in a precise diplomatic hand. This is not a bulk shipment of trade silver, this is a verification of the reserve. Every few years, the secret emergency fund of the Republic, the gold and silver kept for the most dire of circumstances, must be discreetly verified to ensure that time, humidity, or human greed has not touched it. The weight of responsibility tonight is different. This is not the wealth of today's commerce, but the insurance for the Republic's tomorrow. You break the seal with a steady hand. Inside the box are not just coins, but ancient papyri of high purity and heavy gold ducati from the previous century, their faces worn smooth by decades of being held in reserve. As you lift the first stack of gold, the weight is startling. Gold has a sullen density compared to the lively weight of silver. It sits in the hand with an undeniable heavy authority. You place it on your small, high-precision scale. The brass pans don't just move, they sink with a slow, regal grace. You begin the count, your movements even more deliberate than usual. In the silence of 1450, with only your lamp for company, you feel as though you are counting the heartbeats of the state itself. The night stretches on, and you become lost in the golden glow of the reserve. Each entry in your private ledger is made with a fresh quill, the ink dark and unwavering. You find that the ancient gold is exactly as recorded in the archives of your predecessors. There is a profound sense of continuity in this. You are talking to the keepers of the past through these weights. See, the coins seem to say, we are still here, the balance remains. You feel a witty spark of kinship with the men who sat at this table 100 years ago, breathing the same dust and seeking the same precision. As you reseal the box with fresh wax and your own keeper's stamp, the vault feels more like a temple than a treasury. You have confirmed the secret strength of Ragusa. The dawn finds you ascending once more, tired but filled with a quiet golden light. The keeper of the scale has guarded the future, and the Republic remains, as ever, unshakable. The weeks following the verification of the reserve settle into a rhythm of high-volume trade. Ragusa in 1450 is a hive of activity, and the treasury reflects this pulse. The reserve has been returned to its hidden niche, but its golden weight remains in your muscle memory, a standard against which all other metals are now compared. Tonight, the vault is filled with a different kind of treasure, a massive influx of Venetian ducats and Florentine florins brought in by a fleet that braved the late autumn storms. These coins are the aristocrats of the currency world, bright, thin, and stamped with an artistry that makes the rough mountain silver look like peasant work. As you pour a bag of florins onto the oak table, the sound is not a clink or a thud, but a high crystalline shimmer, like sunlight hitting a frozen pond. You begin the process of assaying these foreign visitors. While their beauty is undeniable, your loyalty is to the scale. You use a touchstone, a small dark slab of basanite, to test the purity of the gold. By rubbing the coin against the stone and observing the color of the streak it leaves, you can determine if the Florentines have stayed true to their reputation. The streak left by the florin is a rich, buttery yellow, a testament to its 24-carat soul. You record the findings in a new ledger dedicated to foreign exchange. In the witty logic of the treasury, even beauty must be reduced to a number. You find a certain joy in this reduction. It is the ultimate form of honesty. No matter how intricate the engraving of a saint or a lion, the scale only cares for the gravity of the metal. The middle of the night brings a rare visitor to the outer chamber, the young apprentice of the master of the mint. He brings a tray of freshly struck Ragusan grossi, still warm from the pressing. He stands at the door, eyes wide as he glimpses the piles of gold on your table. You take the tray from him with a nod of silent authority. These new coins are the fruit of the smelting you witnessed. You pick one up. The image of St. Blaise holding the city of Ragusa is crisp and sharp, his silver mitre shining in the lamplight. You weigh a handful of them against the standard weights. They are perfect, exactly 5-point-something grams of pure Ragusan pride. You feel a sense of paternal satisfaction. These coins are the children of your vigil, and they are ready to go out into the world and do the work of the Republic. As you finish the night's work, the vault feels crowded with the ghosts of 1,000 transactions. The gold of Florence, the silver of the mountains, and the fresh coins of Ragusa all sit together in a temporary metallic piece. You realize that your life is spent at the crossroads of history. Every coin you count is a vote for stability, a brick in the wall that keeps the chaos of the 15th century at bay. You extinguish the lamp and wait for the darkness to settle. In the absolute blackness, you can still feel the presence of the wealth around you, not as a temptation, but as a responsibility. You climb the stairs toward the dawn, your hands smelling of gold and cold iron, ready to face the world with the clarity of a man who knows exactly what everything is worth. The keeper of the scale has balanced the accounts, and the Republic wakes to a morning of silver and gold. The transition from the golden shimmer of the florins to the grey reality of a stormy Ragusan morning is jarring. The sky over the Adriatic is the colour of unpolished lead, and the wind howls through the narrow stone vents of the palace. Despite the weather, The work in the treasury never halts. Today, however, your task shifts from the high-stakes world of gold reserves to the humble, messy reality of the tax coppers. The common folk of the Republic pay their dues in small denominations, blackened bits of copper and low-grade silver that smell of fish, smoke, and calloused hands. As you dump the first bucket onto your table, the sound is a dull, clattering thwack, devoid of the musicality of the gold. You spend the early hours of the vigil sorting through this chaotic sea of base metal. It is grueling work. These coins are often caked with grime, making it difficult to discern their value. You use a stiff brush and a vinegar solution to reveal the faint markings beneath the corrosion. There is a gritty, witty realism to this part of the job. While the gold represents the Republic's dreams, this copper represents its sweat. You find a coin that has been bent almost in half, perhaps by a blacksmith testing his strength or a child playing in the dirt. You straighten it as best you can before weighing it. In the eyes of the state, even the lowliest copper contributes to the whole. You record the weight with the same meticulous precision you used for the reserve, for the ledger knows no social class. By midnight, the storm outside has intensified. You can hear the heavy waves crashing against the base of the city walls, a sound like distant cannon fire. Inside the vault, the air is thick with the metallic tang of copper and the sharp scent of the vinegar. Your fingers are stained a deep, earthy brown, and your back aches from the constant sorting. Yet there is a strange comfort in this labor. It grounds you. You realize that the strength of Ragusa doesn't just lie in the secret vaults of gold, but in the millions of these small transactions, the bread bought, the roof repaired, the salt traded. You are counting the lifeblood of the common man. As you reach the bottom of the last bucket, you find a small silver-plated button mixed in with the coins. It is a humble object, likely lost by a taxpayer in their haste. You set it aside in your box of curiosities. It is a tiny fragment of a human life, a reminder that your ledger is more than just a list of assets. It is a map of the city's heart. The dawn begins to bleed through the clouds, a pale, watery grey that matches the copper dust on your table. You pack your tools, wash your hands until they are red and raw, and prepare to depart. The storm is beginning to break, and as you climb the stairs, you feel a profound sense of balance. The gold is safe, the copper is counted, and the Republic, like the keeper of the scale, has weathered the night. The aftermath of the storm leaves the air in Ragusa incredibly crisp, a sharp clarity that seems to mirror your own state of mind. As you rest during the daylight hours, the sound of the city returning to life, the scraping of shovels against sand, the shouts of sailors clearing the docks, drifts up to your window. You feel a strange sense of equilibrium. Having handled the tax coppers, the grit of the common life still lingers under your fingernails, reminding you that wealth is not always about brilliance. Sometimes it is about endurance. You are the bridge between the merchant prince and the salt-stained laborer, and that realization carries a weight heavier than any gold bar. When you return to the vault this evening, the atmosphere has shifted again. The master of the treasury is waiting for you, holding a heavy iron key that belongs to the sealed archives. This is a section of the vault that is rarely opened, containing the standard samples, the master coins against which all future mintings are compared. Your task tonight is the alignment of the heavens, a ritualistic check where you must ensure that your working weights and the master samples haven't deviated by even a microscopic fraction. It is a night of silence, of breath held tight, and of eyes squinting against the flickering lamplight to see the perfect alignment of the scale's needle. You begin by laying out the master grossi from the year 1400-1425 and the current 1450. Placing them on the velvet-lined pans of your most delicate scale, you watch the needle. It trembles, a thin silver sliver of indecision, before settling precisely in the center. A witty thought crosses your mind. In a century of wars, plagues, and shifting borders, this needle is perhaps the only constant in the Mediterranean. You feel like a priest of logic, performing a ceremony that ensures the sun will rise on an honest market tomorrow. The precision required is exhausting. Even the heat from your hands can expand the metal, so you use bone-tipped tweezers to move the weights. your movements as slow and deliberate as a predator in the tall grass. As the night wanes, the air in the archives becomes stale and heavy with the smell of old parchment and wax. You find yourself looking at a coin from the time of the rector's grandfather. It is beautiful in its simplicity. You realize that your life is a series of these moments, brief encounters with the past that validate the present. You finish the alignment, finding that the Republic's standards remain inviolate. You record the zero deviation in the master log, your signature flowing with a confidence that only absolute certainty can provide. As you lock the archive door and ascend the stairs, the first light of dawn is hitting the stone walls, turning them a soft, glowing rose. You have ensured that the foundations of the city's truth are level. The keeper of the scale has checked the pulse of history, and the beat is strong and true. The morning after the alignment of the heavens brings a rare, profound stillness. You sit in the upper loggia of the palace, nursing a cup of thick, bitter coffee, watching the shadows of the columns shorten as the sun rises. The knowledge that the standards of the Republic have not shifted by a single grain provides a deep intellectual comfort. In the 1450s, truth is often a flexible thing, subject to the whims of popes, sultans, and kings. But in your vault, truth is a physical constant. You feel like a master of a hidden clockwork, ensuring that every gear of the Ragusan economy turns with perfect, frictionless timing. As you descend for your evening shift, you are met with an unusual sight. A diplomat from the northern courts has arrived, bringing with him a tribute of silver plate, not coins, but heavy ornate dishes and silver ewers intended to be converted into currency. This is the transformation of art, a process that always carries a hint of melancholy. You are tasked with assessing the total weight and purity of these beautiful objects before they are sent to the furnace. As you unpack the crates, the vault is suddenly filled with the glint of embossed lions, swirling floral patterns, and the crests of noble houses. The objects are magnificent, but to you they are merely a complex geometry of silver. You begin the assessment. It is much harder to weigh a large, curved ewer than a flat coin. You must calculate the displacement or use the large platform scales, accounting for any non-silver solder or gemstones set into the metal. There is a witty irony in the work. You are dismantling the prestige of a foreign house and reducing it to a raw commodity. You use a small file to take a tiny bite from the underside of a platter, testing the metal beneath the surface. The bright white flash of high-purity silver greets you. You record the weight of each piece with clinical detachment. To the diplomat, this is a sacrifice of heritage. To you, it is the strengthening of the Republic's walls. The middle of the night finds you surrounded by this silver forest. The lamplight plays off the polished surfaces, casting distorted reflections of your own face back at you. You look like a ghost haunted by the wealth of kings. You find a small silver-chased cup, so finely wrought that it seems to have been spun by spiders rather than men. For a fleeting second you hesitate, feeling the weight of the craftsmanship, but the law of the scale is absolute. Value is not found in the beauty of the form, but in the integrity of the substance. You write down its weight, effectively sealing its fate. As the shift ends and the foundry men arrive to cart the treasure away to the crucibles, you feel a sense of solemn duty fulfilled. You have translated the language of art into the language of the ledger. The transition from the silver forest back to the bare stone of the vault is sharp. You clean your table, the metallic scent of the plate still clinging to your clothes. As you climb toward the morning, you see the city of Ragusa, its own stone form a masterpiece of collective effort. You are the one who ensures the materials for that masterpiece are always pure. The keeper of the scale has weighed the vanity of the world and found it wanting, while the silver remains eternal and accounted for. The departure of the silver plate leaves the vault feeling unusually hollow. The space that was once crowded with the ornate silhouettes of foreign ewers and platters is now reclaimed by the familiar stoic silence of the stone. You spend the first hour of your shift walking the perimeter of the room, your boots clicking against the floor like the counting of a giant's beads. The air still carries a faint, ghostly scent of the polish used by the northern craftsmen, a lingering memory of a beauty that is currently being reduced to liquid in the foundry fires. There is a witty, perhaps slightly cynical satisfaction in knowing that while those noble houses preen themselves on their heritage, it is your city, your scale, that determines the final brutal truth of their worth. Tonight's task is a transition back to the practical, the audit of the mint's waste. In the process of striking coins, tiny fragments of silver known as clippings or shruff are produced. Every grain must be returned to the treasury to be remelted. You find yourself hunched over a series of small linen bags, each containing what looks like metallic sand. Sorting through this requires a different kind of focus, a microscopic vigilance. You use a fine-haired brush to sweep the silver dust into the small precision pans of your scale. The weight is negligible in isolation, but in the aggregate, it represents the profit and the honesty of the mint itself. You are the sieve through which the smallest particles of the Republic's wealth must pass. As you work, the lamplight catches a stray splinter of silver that has embedded itself in the grain of the oak table. You pick it out with a needle, feeling a strange sense of victory. To a casual observer, it is nothing. To a keeper of the scale, it is a breach in the integrity of the count. You record these minute weights in a ledger titled The Fractional Accounts. In the 1450s, where a single grain of silver can buy a loaf of bread for a starving family, your obsession with the small is not a madness, but a mercy. You are ensuring that nothing, not a single spark of value, is lost to the shadows. The night feels long, the repetitive nature of the work inducing a meditative state. You begin to see the world as a collection of fragments, a mosaic held together by the gravity of the whole. The sound of the wind outside has died down, replaced by a thick, heavy fog that dampens the sounds of the city. Inside the vault, you are a world unto yourself. You reach the final bag of clippings, its weight balancing perfectly with the mint's report. You lean back, your eyes weary from the strain of the small, and blow out the lamp. In the darkness, you feel the weight of the city above you, a vast stone entity built upon millions of these tiny verified grains. You are the one who ensures the foundation never shifts. As you ascend into the pale, misty dawn, you carry the quiet pride of a man who knows that in the grand design of Ragusa, even the dust is divine. The fog from the Adriatic clings to your cloak as you descend for your evening vigil, a damp grey shroud that seems to muffle even the passage of time. Tonight the vault feels more like a cavern of secrets than a counting house. The primary task is unusual, the reclamation of the sea silver. A merchant galley partially wrecked on the jagged rocks of the Peljeshak Peninsula has had its cargo salvaged. The chests have been submerged in salt water for days, and as you open the first one, the smell of brine and decaying seaweed fills the stone chamber. The coins inside are clumped together, encrusted with salt crystals and a pale, chalky oxidation that makes them look like ancient coral. This is a battle against the elements. You cannot weigh these coins in their current state. The salt and the moisture would add a false weight, a lie told by the ocean. You begin a painstaking process of purification. You have a basin of warm distilled water and a set of soft wooden picks. One by one, you pry the coins apart. The sound is a wet, grinding crunch, a protest from the sea as it relinquishes its prize. It is witty, in a dark way, to think that the Adriatic tried to tax the Republic, only for you to demand the tax back. You work with a steady hand, ensuring that in removing the salt you do not scrape away any of the precious silver. By the middle of the night, your table is covered in rows of damp, cleaned coins, each one reflecting the lamplight in a soft, diffused glow. They are not as bright as the singing silver from the mountains, nor as regal as the gold reserve. They have a matted, ghostly finish, as if the sea has sucked the spirit out of them. But as you begin to weigh them, you find that the metal is resilient. Silver does not easily surrender its essence to the salt. You record the recovered weight in the maritime ledger, noting the small percentage lost to corrosion. You are the final accountant for the storms, the one who tallies the cost of the waves. The night air in the vault grows heavy with the humidity of the drying coins. You feel a deep, rhythmic exhaustion, the kind that comes from fighting a slow war against decay. You find a single gold ducat that had been trapped in the center of a silver clump. its surface perfectly preserved, shining amidst the ruined silver like a defiant eye. You hold it up, marveling at how the most noble of metals ignores the spite of the sea. It is a reminder of why gold is the ultimate anchor of the world. As the dawn begins to thin the fog outside, you finish the last of the chests. The sea silver is accounted for, the salt is washed away, and the ledger is once again in balance. You ascend the stairs, your lungs craving the dry, sun-warmed air of the morning, knowing that even the depths of the Adriatic cannot hide the truth from your scale. The scent of salt and vinegar still lingers in the stone pores of the vault as you begin tonight's vigil, a ghostly reminder of the sea's failed attempt to reclaim the Republic's wealth. Tonight, however, the air is sharpened by a different aroma, the smell of beeswax and expensive parchment. On your table sits a ledger not written by your hand but by the clerks of the Great Council. This is the night of the discrepancy. Somewhere in the vast flow of commerce between the silk markets of the east and the woolen mills of the north, 3 pounds of silver have gone missing from the official tallies. You are not here to count new wealth tonight, you are here to hunt for a shadow. You begin the grueling process of a reverse audit. This requires you to pull several chests from the previous month's intake shipments you have already weighed and recorded. You must re-verify every bar and every bag. There is a witty intellectual tension in this task. You are essentially questioning your own past self, challenging the integrity of your previous marks. You move with a clinical, almost predatory precision. If there is a ghost in the machine, a thumb on the scale, or a leak in the logistics, the mathematics of 1,450 will eventually flush it out. The silence of the vault is absolute, broken only by the rhythmic thud of silver bars hitting the oak table and the dry scratch of your quill as you cross-reference the old numbers with the new. By midnight, your eyes are burning under the strain of the flickering lamp. You have reweighed 4,000 grossi, and the numbers have been identical to your original records down to the last grain. This is both a relief and a frustration. If the error isn't in your vault, it exists in the world above, a clerical error in the custom house or a bold theft on the high seas. You find yourself examining the physical chests themselves, looking for drilling, a technique where thieves drill a tiny hole into the bottom of a silver bar, extract the core, and fill it with lead. You run your fingers over the smooth, cold surfaces of the bars, feeling for the slightest imperfection in the grain of the metal. Your touch has become so sensitive over the years that you can feel the difference between pure silver and a base alloy just by how the metal breathes against your skin. In the final hour before dawn, you find it. It is not a theft, but a gift of gravity. One of the scales in the customs office had a pivot worn down by sand and grit, causing it to drag slightly. Over 1,000 transactions, that tiny friction added up to the missing 3 pounds. It was a mechanical lie, not a human one. You record your findings with a sense of quiet triumph. You have exonerated the merchants and the guards, and placed the blame where it belongs, on the wear and tear of time. As you blow out the lamp and prepare to ascend, the vault feels lighter, as if the mystery itself had a weight that has now been lifted. You walk into the morning light, a man who has stared into the void of a missing sum and brought back the truth. The keeper of the scale has restored the harmony of the ledger, and the Republic's heart beats in perfect, calculated time. The morning air after the night of the discrepancy is unusually still, as if the city itself is holding its breath. You spend your resting hours in a state of hyper-awareness. The world feels like a series of mechanical parts that must be perfectly maintained. Your role as the keeper is not just to count, but to mitigate the slow erosion of use. You are the guardian against the entropy that threatens the Republic's order. When you return to the vault for the final time, you find a collection of Oriental tribute silver dirhams from the distant east, stamped with flowing calligraphy. As you pour them out, they make a sound like dry leaves skittering across a stone courtyard. You value these coins through the Archimedes test, weighing them in air and then in water. It is a witty liquid logic that transcends language. You find the silver is high, yet brittle. You record these findings in the ledger, acting as the universal translator that converts the diverse, chaotic wealth of the Silk Roads into the steady language of Ragusa. As the night deepens, you realize you have reached the end of your long vigil. You have counted the mountain ore, the sea-stained salvage, the golden reserves, and the humble copper of the poor. You pick up your quill one last time and draw a thick double line at the bottom of the master ledger. This is the seal of 1450. You gather your weights, those small brass anchors of reality, and place them into their velvet-lined box. The scale, now empty, stands in perfect, level silence. You have balanced the city's soul. In the final hour before dawn, you blow out the lamp. The darkness is total, yet you do not stumble. You know every inch of this stone sanctuary. You ascend the stairs, the iron key turning in the lock with a final resonant click that echoes through the heart of the palace. Emerging onto the ramparts, you watch the sun ignite the Adriatic in a blaze of molten gold. The city wakes, its markets honest and its foundations secure, because you stood watch in the dark. With a weary, witty smile, you let the quill-calloused hand rest. The keeper of the scale has finished the count, the balance is held, and the world is at peace.
Sleepy History with Arthur is created for relaxation, entertainment, and sleep purposes. The stories shared on this channel are inspired by historical events, daily life, and real periods in history, but they may be simplified, adapted, or narrated in a calming way to enhance the listening experience.
This content is not intended to be a precise academic or educational source.
While we aim to stay generally accurate, some details may be altered for storytelling flow and relaxation. Please do not rely on this channel as a primary source for historical research or study. By listening, you acknowledge that this content is designed to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep. Thank you for your understanding and support.